Bonjour et bienvenue à tout le monde à la maison. Bonjour à tout le monde ici dans la salle. So welcome everyone. Welcome at home. J'espère que tout le monde a eu une belle été. Je sais qu'on a eu une belle fin de semaine, cette fin de semaine, peut-être la dernière. J'espère pas, mais possiblement. So at home, I hope everyone had a great summer. I hope the weather was conducive to your activities, and I hope some of you had a chance to go visit the St. Charles Park. On va commencer la session ce soir avec le point 1.1. Est-ce que j'ai besoin d'un proposeur pour l'agenda?
Je propose l'adoption de l'ordre du jour avec la retraite de 8.3.
Donc, la question, Mme Lagraffière, est-ce qu'il y a d'autres retraits ou c'est le seul?
Non, ça complète, donc 8.3, postpone to another date.
Will be moved. Thank you very much.
J'approuve l'ordre du jour tel que modifié.
Merci. Donc, je vais demander à tout le monde dans la salle de se lever pour un moment de silence. So if you could rise for a moment of silence, please. Merci. Thank you. Avant qu'on commence la période de questions, je lis un texte que j'ai préparé pour ce soir. So before we start with the question period, I have a prepared text to read tonight, and I'll read it in both languages, and I will start in English. It has been almost 11 months since we embarked on this consultation process to better understand the vision of the residents of Dorval concerning residential and commercial development in our city over the next 5 to 15 years. Council has attended public consultation. They have spoken with their constituents. They have had multiple meetings with our administration, including the Director General and the Director of Urban Planning, both of whom have strong backgrounds in and experience in modern urban planning methods. A public survey was held with over 1,200 participants, which clearly demonstrated the three biggest concerns of residents, and they are as follows. First of all, preserving and increasing public green space and natural spaces. Secondly, to keep taxes as low as possible, knowing that we already have the lowest ones on the West Island. Lastly, with increased densification, we must also put in place concrete plans to encourage, improve active mobility on our territory, to make the city more secure for cyclists, pedestrians, and to promote use of other modes of transportation other than cars. Tonight, Council will be approving various notices of motion amending both interim control bylaws of special planning programs, SPPs, for Michel Jasmin sector, the interim control bylaw for new delimitations of special planning program, SPPs, for Michel Jasmin sector, for controlling building heights as well. It will also be approving and tabling of a draft concordance bylaw. In short, the Council is moving ahead with updating its sustainable master plan approved in 2013 to better reflect the needs of the community today and into the future. It will be updated to better control urban sprawl and the pressures of developers to build overly dense projects that do not meet the wishes or the needs of our community. The changes that we are proposing tonight will be made public within the next 24 to 48 hours on our city website in both languages. We will also hold a public presentation and consultation on the evening of October 11th to explain the changes being proposed. We will be setting height limitations as part of the concordance process on properties at risk of development, as identified in our public consultations earlier this year. For example, the Bell property will be limited to 2 to 8 floors, like what we have on l'Avenue de l'Académie. The Boathouse property will be limited to 8 stories on its present property, as yet another example. We have conditions to promote the creations of important new green spaces, such as the renaturalization of the Bouchard Creek, which will be restored and exposed at ground level to create a 25 to 30 meter wide linear park between the Bell property and the limits of the single-family homes on Hanfield Circle. We will also protect up to 50% of the green spaces in the Garden Crescent neighborhood. Lastly, with the goal of doubling the size of Ballantyne Park, we will be rezoning the Public Works property to be zoned as recreational natural green spaces in the eventual move of the Public Works Department in the coming years. These are only a few of the examples of how we will protect our community today and in the coming years from high-density development projects with limited green and natural space. It would also be wrong of me to not say that this is also being done to comply with the Plan d'aménagement de développement, also called the PMAD, of the Communauté métropolitaine de Montréal, something that should have been completed back in 2013 when we approved the Sustainable Master Plan 2013-2031. I look forward to these discussions that will be taking place over the next few weeks, as this council has worked very hard to create a vision of planned and measured development in the city. It also sets its vision on the creation of new large green and natural spaces throughout our community. This new vision, along with a review and updating our urban planning regulations, which will be completed later this year, will provide us with the required tools to make a more livable, green, and sustainable neighborhoods in our city, within our city limits. I look forward to a renewed, more vibrant city of Dorval in the coming years. Cela fait presque 11 mois que nous avons entamé le processus de consultation afin de mieux comprendre la vision des résidents de Dorval concernant le développement résidentiel et commercial de notre cité au cours des 5 à 10 prochaines années. Les membres du conseil ont assisté aux consultations publiques, ont parlé à leurs électeurs et ont eu de nombreuses réunions avec notre administration, notamment avec le directeur général et la directrice de l'aménagement urbain, qui possèdent tous les deux des solides antécédents et expériences dans les méthodes modernes de planification urbaine. Un sondage public a été mené auprès de plus de 1200 participants et a clairement démontré que les 3 plus grandes préoccupations de nos résidents sont les suivantes. Premièrement, préserver et augmenter les espaces verts et naturels publics. Deuxièmement, maintenir les taxes le plus bas possible, sachant qu'ils sont déjà les moins élevés dans l'ouest de l'île. Enfin, avec une densification accrue, nous devons également mettre en place des plans concrets pour encourager de meilleurs plans de mobilité active sur le territoire afin de rendre notre cité plus sécuritaire pour les cyclistes et les piétons et favoriser l'utilisation de modes de transport autres que les voitures. Ce soir, le Conseil approuvera divers avis de motion modifiant le règlement de contrôle intérimaire du programme particulier d'urbanisme, le PPU, donc du secteur Michel-Jasmin, et le règlement de contrôle intérimaire pour une nouvelle délimitation du programme particulier d'urbanisme PPU du secteur Michel-Jasmin dans le but de contrôler les hauteurs de bâtiments. Il approuvera aussi le dépôt d'un projet de règlement de concordance. En bref, le Conseil va de l'avant avec une mise à jour du plan d'urbanisme durable approuvé en 2013, afin de mieux refléter les besoins de notre communauté, aujourd'hui et pour l'avenir. Il sera mis à jour pour mieux contrôler l'étalement urbain et les pressions de promoteurs à construire des projets trop denses qui ne répondent pas aux attentes et des besoins de notre communauté. Les changements que nous proposons ce soir seront rendus publics dans les prochains 24 à 48 heures sur le site d'Internet de la Cité et ce, dans les 2 langues. Nous organiserons également une présentation publique à une consultation dans la soirée du 11 octobre pour expliquer les changements proposés. Nous fixerons les limites de hauteur dans le cadre du processus de concordance sur les propriétés à risque de développement identifiées lors de nos consultations publiques plus tôt cette année. Par exemple, la propriété Belle sera limitée à un maximum de 2 à 8 étages, comme on le voit sur la rue de l'Académie. Un autre exemple est la propriété Boathouse, qui sera limitée à 8 étages sur sa propriété actuelle. Nous avons également les conditions pour favoriser la création de nouveaux espaces verts importants, comme la renaturalisation du ruisseau Bussard, qui sera restauré et exposé au niveau de sol pour créer un grand parc linéaire de 25 à 30 mètres de large entre les propriétés Bell et la limite des propriétés du cercle Handfield. Nous protégerons également jusqu'à 50% des espaces du quartier du Croissant Garden. Enfin, dans le but de doubler la taille du parc Ballantyne, nous allons rezoner les terrains des travaux publics en espaces verts, récréatifs et naturels lors du déménagement éventuel des services des travaux publics dans les années à venir. Ce sont là que quelques exemples de façon dont nous protégerons notre communauté aujourd'hui et dans les années à venir contre les projets de développement de haute densité avec des espaces verts ou naturels très limités. Ce serait aussi une erreur de ma part de ne pas mentionner que cela est également fait pour se conformer au plan d'aménagement et de développement, également appelé le PMAD, de la communauté métropolitaine de Montréal. Quelque chose qui aurait dû être complété en 2013 lorsque nous avons approuvé le plan d'urbanisme durable 2013-2031. J'attends avec impatience les discussions qui auraient lieu au cours des prochaines semaines, car le conseil a travaillé très fort pour créer une vision d'un développement planifié et mesuré dans la municipalité. Cela fixera également la vision sur la création de nouveaux grands espaces verts et naturels à travers notre communauté. Cette nouvelle vision, ainsi qu'une réflexion et une mise à jour de nos règlements d'urbanisme qui seront achevés plus tard cette année, nous fournirons les outils nécessaires pour créer des quartiers plus vivables, verts et durables dans les limites de notre ville. J'attends avec impatience une cité de Dorval renouvelée et plus dynamique dans les années à venir. So, merci tout le monde pour votre patience. Thank you everyone for your patience. We'll start with question period. I think what we're going to do tonight is we're going to go to the 5 questions that I've received online first. It should go very quickly, I think. And then we'll ask people in the audience here to pose their questions. They need to identify themselves with their address, name and address, ask their questions, or 3 questions, or 1 or 2, and then just sit down again and we'll answer those questions. Donc, pour ce soir, je vais commencer à lire les 5 questions qui ont été envoyées en ligne. Ça ne devait pas prendre beaucoup de temps. Après ça, pour les résidents dans la salle ce soir, vous pouvez vous présenter au micro. On a besoin de votre nom, votre adresse. Vous pouvez poser entre 1 et 3 questions. Une fois posées, vous retournez à vos chaises et on va répondre à vos questions le mieux possible. Je vais commencer avec les questions en ligne. The first question is, Question sur le stationnement sur l'avenue d'Orval de Mme Bray. J'ai visité le conseil en juillet dernier. Ma question reste, la ville de Dorval peut-elle intercéder auprès de la ville de Montréal pour permettre le stationnement au 730 avenue Dawson, puisque ceci est vacant? Novembre arrive à grands pas et le problème de stationnement deviendra encore plus sérieux, car pour ceux qui habitaient sur l'avenue d'Orval. Excusez. Madame Bray, la propriété, on ne peut pas faire un stationnement. Unfortunately, we can't make a parking lot with that property. Cette propriété va être cédée à l'OMHM pour une construction de résidence de personnes âgées à faible revenu. Ce projet avance tranquillement, mais il avance. On a eu des très bonnes nouvelles plus tôt cette fin de semaine. Et il y a des contrats qui ont été mis en ligne pour qu'ils puissent commencer à faire des études. En appel d'offres. Merci, M. Hulot. Donc, le projet avance tranquillement, mais à ce moment, on ne peut pas créer un stationnement là. Moi, je vous demanderais vraiment de contacter votre propriétaire de votre édifice. Je sais que vous êtes sur un bloc appartement sur l'avenue d'Orval et j'ai visité le terrain. De la façon que moi je l'ai vu, il a quand même assez d'espace pour stationner. Je ne comprends pas pourquoi il n'y a pas une place pour vous. J'imagine que c'est inclus ou peut-être pas, c'est peut-être pas inclus, mais dans votre loyer. Mais je pense que c'est une question qui a besoin d'être posée au propriétaire. C'est pourquoi vous n'avez pas accès à un stationnement. Si vous voulez me revenir avec cette réponse-là, j'essaierai de peut-être vous aider avec ça, mais je pense pour le moment, on ne peut pas faire un stationnement. Question de M. Nzola. Again this month, Mr. Nzola is not in the room? Oh, he is. Oh, Mr. Nzola, would you like to read your questions? Or Mr. Von Royce will read them?
My reading is pretty bad, but I'll read.
Very good.
I feel more comfortable. Again, Mike Nozzola, 66 St. Charles Avenue. Again, this month, I am asking you to edit the webcast from last March, where you made false and defamatory comments against me. You also held up fake documents to defend your untrue claims. Last month, you attempted to sidestep my question by ridiculing the grammar I used. You did eventually say that you would look at the tape and decide if it should be edited. Since City Council has edited a tape in the past to hide its support of a convicted contractor, will you now agree to edit the March webcast to erase a wrong committed against me?
No, Mr. Nzola, I've reviewed the tape, and
Well,
it's not defamatory. by
It's
any
not
means.
defamatory. You said that I spoke the untruth, that all the information I asked for I had received. You said I was not, I should speak honestly. You were not speaking honestly. You were speaking the untruth. I did not receive all the information. The documents you waived, you said he got all the information he wanted. That's not true. So how can you say that's not defamatory? How can you say that is wrong? What you did was wrong, absolutely wrong.
Well, I asked the city clerk if your access to information request was handled, and she confirmed that it was. So I'm not going to take back anything.
But you know that it wasn't. You know that it wasn't. When you get the questions, I'm sure you reviewed them, and I'm sure when I make access to information requests, you discuss them and you review them. So to say that you asked her and she said that it was already handled, and you assumed that I had all had it. You
Mr.
assumed that I had it.
Mr. Nzola.
That is untrue. You're speaking the untruth.
Mr. Nzola, I was very clear at the beginning of this session to please read your 3 questions, 1 to 3 questions, right? You heard me say it.
I'm-
And go sit down at your seat and we'll answer your
I'm
questions.
asking you why you're not editing it.
Because I didn't say
And
anything
you said-
defamatory, and that's my answer, Mr. Nozola. Next question, please.
Okay. So it's okay if you say he got everything he asked for, it's right here, he got everything he asked for, he's not speaking the truth. It's okay if you say that, and it's totally wrong. It's okay to say that. That's what you're saying.
Mr. Nozola?
But the tape where you said, I don't know the contractor who knocked down the house with no permit, that tape you edited. Why did you edit that tape? Why did you edit that tape?
Mr. Nozola, we
Why
can...
did you edit the tape where the contractor knocked the house with no permit? Why did you, and you said you didn't know his name. Why did you edit that tape?
Mr. Nozola...
Why did you edit that tape? Answer the question, please.
Okay, Mr. Nozola. There was legal action taken by the city of Dorval towards you for defamatory statements, and the tape was edited.
That has nothing to do with it. That has nothing to do with it.
That's exactly the
That
reason.
has nothing to do with it.
So can we move on?
So you're allowed to
No,
say,
Mr.
you're
Nozola-
allowed to say that I lied, but I'm not allowed to say that you lied. Is that what you're saying? You're allowed to say that I lied, but I'm not allowed to say that you lied. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. You're saying I was defamatory by saying you lied, but you said I lied, which was not true. When I say you lied, it was true. When you say I lied, it was untrue.
Mr. Znizola, just like last month, I'm going to ask you to change the tone of your voice or to go sit down. We will not take that kind of message that you're sending us.
Okay.
There's a sign in the back. Please read it or ask your question gently. Thank you.
You keep asking me to read the rules. I hope that you guys read the rules of ethics and the ethics that you are supposed to follow. I hope that you review those rules every once in a while. Hey, Mr. Mayor, do you review your ethic rules once in a while?
I have the book right beside my chair on my desk.
That's good, that's good. So I hope that you follow it, because you're always asking me to follow it. I hope that you follow it. So did you cut the recording now? No, you could, that's fine. So I'll go to question number 2.
Thank you.
So you did edit now, you did edit all this. But when you make defamatory remarks, you don't edit that. You didn't tell him to stop the tape. But when I'm speaking, you tell him to stop the tape.
Question number 2, Mr. Nozola.
I have been told that there are many problems with the sports complex building, besides the leaky roof. Other repairs have been done to this relatively new structure. How long has it been that the roof is leaking?
Mr. Nozola, I'll have Monsieur Rouleau answer your question for you.
Donc, le centre aquatique est un centre qui est grandement utilisé par plusieurs d'entre vous. On a des problématiques depuis sa construction au niveau de la toiture. L'entrepreneur a refusé de payer certains montants d'argent compte tenu que les travaux n'avaient pas été effectués tels que les plans et devis. On est en garantie depuis 10 ans, donc il vient réparer petit bout par petit bout, ce qui n'aide pas notre centre aquatique. On a donc pris la décision de refaire la toiture du centre aquatique et de poursuivre. Ce même entrepreneur-là, vous demandiez qui était l'entrepreneur, c'est la compagnie Descarel Construction qui a construit le centre aquatique.
Okay. Has the leaking caused other damages or mold to appear?
Sorry, I didn't answer that part. No, right now there's no moisture, there's no mold. The water is dripping directly from the roof to the floor, and that's why we have to redo it.
Okay. What is the name of the company being sued? You answered that. Did the city have a supervisor on duty during construction to oversee the project?
I can't answer that. I wasn't here at that time, but I guess there was somebody looking at it since we refused to pay everything, and the discussion have been during since the construction of the building. So I'm assuming that there was one, just like all the project that we do, there's an inspector that go follow the construction.
Okay. What other problems are there at the building?
J'ai pas la liste au complet actuellement. C'est un immeuble qui est entretenu dû à sa forte utilisation de 6 heures le matin à 10 heures le soir. Le centre aquatique est un immeuble qui est plus délicat que les autres, donc il y a de l'entretien qui est fait chaque année. Vous savez qu'on fait un shutdown à chaque année justement pour l'entretenir. On a des enjeux de céramique qui décollent comme dans beaucoup d'autres centres aquatiques compte tenu de l'utilisation, mais c'est pas mal tous les gros enjeux que nous avons.
Okay. I'll go to question number 3. awarding of contracts. The gratuitous spending of taxpayers' money by City Council is very concerning. I was shocked 2 months ago when you awarded the contract for $1 million for the bicycle path on Bouchard. Only 2 years ago, a path had been installed there costing tens of thousands of dollars. Only one company offered a bid, a company that I have mentioned many times for their questionable practices. It seems to me that council was under pressure to get this bike path done quickly and would approve any bid, no matter how high. Why were other companies not invited to bid on this project?
Donc, je vais vous répondre, M. Nizola. Présentement, on est allé en appel d'offres sur les réseaux SEAO, comme on doit le faire légalement. Vous posez la question pourquoi une seule soumission, c'est une très bonne question. J'ai été en réunion avec l'ensemble des directeurs généraux des villes défusionnées de Montréal et nous avons eu une session d'1 heure justement là-dessus, parce qu'on n'est pas les seuls qui reçoivent de moins en moins de soumissions. Actuellement, le gouvernement, tant provincial que fédéral et les municipalités, font beaucoup de travaux. Avec le manque de main-d'œuvre, les entrepreneurs ont de la difficulté à trouver du monde, ils ne soumissionnent pas sur les projets. Donc, ce n'est pas juste sur ce projet-là que nous n'avons qu'une seule soumission, mais sur plusieurs autres. Et c'est le même problème pour l'ensemble des villes défusionnées. Et c'est le constat que nous avons fait, tous les directeurs généraux. Malheureusement, on ne peut pas inventer de la main-d'œuvre. Et lorsqu'on va sur les réseaux publics, donc SEAO, qui est un réseau gouvernemental, on doit suivre les règles d'adjudication, qu'il y ait 1, 5, 20 entrepreneurs. Mais malheureusement, actuellement, le marché est très saturé. Il n'y a pas beaucoup de soumissionnaires.
Mais vous n'avez pas invité d'autres. Vous n'avez pas invité...
Ça n'a pas été ça n'a
aucun...
pas été sur invitation, M. Nizola, ça a été sur SEAO. C'est un système informatique du gouvernement provincial, donc il n'y a pas d'invitation, c'est public, comme dans les journaux constructeurs, etc. Donc, il n'y a pas eu d'invitation.
Alors certains contrats, ils sont sur invitation et certains n'y sont pas.
Exactement, selon les montants. Et ça, vous pouvez regarder la politique, ce qui est sur notre site web, ou faire une demande d'accès à l'information, puis on vous l'enverra. Mais au Québec, en haut de 121 000 quelques dollars, et quelques sous, pardon, on doit absolument aller sur le réseau SEAO, qui est le système gouvernemental provincial.
Alors, les contrats que vous invitez, les compagnies, OK, ça, c'est quel montant, ça?
C'est en bas de 121 000
En bas de 121.
C'est ça. Là, on parle d'un projet de piste cyclable d'1 million.
Alors, vous invitez, comme j'ai vu le mois passé, juste 2 compagnies, vous invitez, juste 2. Pourquoi juste 2? Pourquoi vous invitez pas 5, 6, 8?
Écoutez, j'ai répondu à votre question, M. Nizola. Là, votre question s'étire. Je ne sais pas de quoi vous parlez. Il y a des fois qu'il y a 5 invitations puis il y a 2 entrepreneurs qui soumissionnent. C'est pas parce qu'on invite que les gens viennent. Donc, mais là, je ne peux pas parler des dossiers que vous parlez.
I read the minutes, and it says 2 companies were invited. Only one offered a bid. It says that a few times, only 2 were invited. It never says 3 were invited, 4 were invited, 5 were invited, 6 were invited. It says only 2 were invited.
Écoutez, on est en appel d'offres à tous les jours pour différents sujets, différents projets. Lorsque vous demandez à beaucoup de gens de faire une soumission, c'est très dispendieux. Et ce qui va arriver, si on demande à 5, 6, 7, 8 à chaque fois... M. Nizola, je vais laisser poser votre question. Laissez-moi terminer, puis après ça, vous irez vous asseoir, puis ça sera terminé. Donc, quand on invite des gens à soumissionner, ça leur coûte de l'argent. Si on invite beaucoup de gens, puis on a un seul qui prend le contrat, le lendemain, quand on va les réinviter, ils ne soumissionneront juste pas. Donc, c'est pour ça qu'on essaie d'avoir plusieurs personnes pour avoir le meilleur prix possible, mais en même temps, on n'invite pas tout le Québec parce qu'autrement, on n'aura plus de fournisseurs qui vont vouloir venir à Dorval. Merci.
Mr. Nizola will reiterate our policies in awarding contracts. It's on our website. It's public information. You can download it. And if you have additional questions, please contact the city clerk office's directly. Okay, it's not access to information. The policy is public. So we're going to move on to next questions, please.
So,
Mr. Nizola, we've answered your 3 questions. We'd like to move on, please.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Question number 3 from Mr. Mamoni. St. Charles Pumping Station upgrades. How much did the upgrade cost with the capacity of sewage increase in services, a future growth for Dorval? How many millions of capacity increase from Old Station? Mr. Mamoni, I'm not quite sure where this question comes from. The St. Charles pumping station is not run by the city of Dorval, has nothing to do with the city of, it's managed by the AGLO. So maybe you should, if you'd like to know that information, please contact the agglomeration. But I have no idea. We are not responsible for that facility. Question 2, smell from pumping station St. Charles. An unpleasant smell is coming from the pumping station at St. Charles. Why is this? Well, Mr. Mamoni, it's sewage. So yeah, it's sometimes there is a smell. I've been in that area. Sometimes there's a little bit of a small smell, but nothing that I think that's really out of the ordinary. If you think it's out of the ordinary, we can certainly send your comment to the agglomeration. Question 3, road repairs on Lakeshore Southeast before winter, and I'll let Monsieur Trudeau answer that question.
Good evening, Mr. Mamoni. Thanks for your question. Yes, that area of Lakeshore, especially at the corner of Martin, is really due for works to be done there, and our Director General will ask tomorrow Public Works to see exactly what's the evaluation of what kind of work can be done before winter. We all know that in a couple of years, Lakeshore is going to be redone, but there's something to be done right there before winter, and hopefully it can be lasting a few months or 5 or 6 months. Otherwise, we'll be obliged to do it next year again. It's very difficult on the vehicles at that corner mainly, and also for all the cyclists that goes by. So yes, something's going to be done, and I'll let you know exactly with an update within 1 week or 2 weeks as soon as I get news from the Director General. Thank you. Good night.
Merci, Monsieur Trudeau. Fourth question is from Mr. Levine. When will public meeting take place? During the July council meeting, you advised that you would contact Santé Publique about their holding a public information regarding the black carbon nanoparticulates that were found 5 years ago in Dorval. Have you been in contact with Santé Publique about this meeting? Incidentally, Montreal has promised to publish their findings in June 2023. Unfortunately, it appears that Montreal purchased substandard equipment, and now they have promised to publish findings in June 2024. The only findings that exist are those of the McGill's area laboratory. The research to find them was paid for by the taxpayers of Canada. I think the question here, Mr., out of all of that was, have you been in contact with Santé Publique about meetings? I've made a request to meet with them. I've not heard. Montreal in the summer months is from an administration point of view is fairly light. So I will push back again on them and try to get an answer for you. Question 2, the scientific recommendations of Professor Area. At the August council meeting, I sent a multicolored type document to you, Councillor Von Roerts, and I from Professor Area last October. It was one page of 3 that we all received. I asked you to read it in public because the residents of Dorval have the right to know. You refused to do so and laughed it off. Attached are the 3 pages. I welcome you to read them. If you are not prepared to do so, I suggest that everyone at Dorval make an access to information request for the only email plus attachments that Dr. Parisa Area has ever sent to Mayor Doré, Councillor Von Roerts, and myself. Actually, I think that it would be very nice if Councillor Von Roerts announced here and now that he received the scientific recommendations of the doctor last October. So, Mr. Levine, I will give you one answer, and I think Mr. Von Roerts will add something after that. I don't like reading documents, phrases that are not in context to a broader document. That leads, we're editing a document. And I do not read and edit partial documents, especially documents that don't belong to the city of Dorval. So, Mr. Levine, you know what I'm holding. This is the doctor's report. It's easily found by Googling her name and McGill. It will probably bring you to this page, to this document as the first hit on Google. I do have the link here, and if any resident of Dorval is interested in reading this study, black carbon particulates, physiochemical real-time data set in cold cities, trend for fall-winter BC accumulation and COVID-19. I encourage you to download it and have a quick read. And this way you will have the exact information that Mr. Levine is referring to, and you can take it in its proper context. Mr. Von Roerts, do you have additional comment?
Yes, Mr. Dory. Just since I was specifically named in the question by Mr. Levine. So yes, we did receive an email that the three of us were copied on. It was one of several emails Professor Aria and I exchanged. And indeed, in one of those emails, as well as in a presentation she made, as well as in the publication Mr. Dory just referenced, it was either that one or one of the 2022 publications her group had. There are 4 specific recommendations following the studies. I will highlight that folks are welcome to take a look at the paper to see those recommendations, but I will also point out that those recommendations all pertain to Health Canada or the airport itself's operations. They're not specific recommendations that fall within our realm of decision-making as a municipality. But certainly I don't think the intent is to prevent people from seeing what those recommendations are. So however folks want to get access to that, it's publicly available.
Thank you, Mr. Von Roerts. Question 3, what do you intend to tell the mothers of Dorval? Last week, I received an email regarding Montreal's handling and the measures of black carbon nanoparticles. As mentioned in my earlier question, Montreal informed me many months ago that they would publish the findings regarding nanoparticles in June 2023. They didn't publish what they gave me, but they gave me their usual excuse. I know that the fastest and best way to find out what is actually going on would be for new mothers in Dorval to offer their placentas to be examined for nanoparticles. As well, Dorval ladies should decide who decide to have abortions could donate their fetuses so that their brains, lungs, and livers could be examined for nanoparticles. It is not a secret that babies in Aberdeen, Scotland were being born with nanoparticles in their brains, lungs, and livers. A study was published in last October in the British Medical Journal, the Lancet. After that, the study appeared. I asked 2 professors in toxicology which city was worse for nanoparticles. One replied that it was in his field. The other advised that Dorval was the worst. Meanwhile, Minister Algabra was very likely fired for signing a letter penned by an inept advisor who found fault in the study of the professor. The attack was a joke, and I even noticed problems with it. I sent it to Professor Area. Amusingly, Transport Canada was attacking the study that they funded. The only capable scientist in Canada to perform the study was Dr. Area. Do you think it's time for the truth to come out? Mr. Levine, I encourage everybody to read the document, the study that I mentioned before, and they can read it in the context it was written. As for the rest, it's commentary, and I just will not speak to that. So thank you for your questions. Mr. Levine. Mrs. Gladicki. Question number 1. Agenda item 3.9, bylaw number RCM 60A 2015. Where are the boundaries for P01-44 expanding the zone P0145 with zone P0145 being removed? Isn't this Ballantine Pool and Park, Why is this being done? Why is zone C02-30 being made into two distinct zones? Where exactly is this? I'll just answer that very quickly because I'm sure it's going to be a broader question tonight, and I'm going to encourage everyone to come to the consultation or the presentation of the information on October 11th. Basically, just to answer very, very quickly, should Public Works ever move from its present location, the vision of this council is to make sure that that land is preserved for future green space and natural space. That would mean redevelopment, and that would double the size of at least double the size of what is Ballantyne Park. And I think that seeing that there is a fair amount of density being built in that area, this is probably the most opportunistic thing we can do, which is to make sure that that land is does not get turned over to developers and that is protected by the city. So that's why we're doing that. But I encourage you to come on October 11th, and we'll discuss that in greater detail. Why is there a request to amend the land use development?
Mr. Dory, the two zones of C02-30 being subdivided as well was in the first question.
They're being joined together.
No, the second part of Mrs. Glodecki's question, why is zones...
Discussed on the 11th.
Yeah, it's going to be discussed
Okay.
on the 11th.
Thank you.
Yeah. Agenda item 6.3, why is there a request to amend the land use and development plan for the urban agglomeration of Montreal? What does the city want to change? Well, I think there's a whole bunch of changes in that, and we can see that with the resolutions tonight. Unless Madame Hashashina wants to say something in 2 or 3 lines, we'll leave it for November 11th, where we have a whole document and a presentation, which will also be recorded at the same time.
Donc, je vais répondre.
October
le 11
11th.
octobre. Oui, oui, oui.
I apologize.
Oui, 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 c'est ça. Oui, absolument. Donc, pour l'amendement que nous soumettons au schéma de l'agglomération de Montréal, il vise essentiellement le secteur 8. Pour ceux qui étaient présents à la consultation, différentes consultations publiques, le secteur 8, c'est vraiment la station du REM des sources. Donc, c'est le secteur périmètre immédiat de la station. Donc, ce qu'on souhaite, c'est vraiment d'aller vers d'autoriser le résidentiel à cet endroit-là, conformément aux orientations du plan métropolitain de l'agglomération de Montréal, donc le PEMAD. Alors, on va être conforme, mais nous, on prend les devants par rapport à l'agglomération de Montréal avec cette demande. Pour la deuxième partie de la résolution, elle vise la pointe de boulevard Bouchard et l'autoroute, donc là où il y a présentement l'édifice Novartis. Donc, c'est vraiment aussi une demande où on souhaiterait avoir du résidentiel, de la mixité pour ce terrain-là, parce que c'est vraiment un terrain qui détient beaucoup de potentiel de requalification, et c'est ressorti dans les grandes orientations que nous avons reçues dans le cadre de les consultations publiques.
Merci, Madame Hashashina. Question 3, Michel Jasmin, Sector SPP and Building Heights Map. What changes are being asked in this area? What will be the maximum heights according to the map? Mrs. Glodecki, I'm not going to go into the details tonight. This map will be available on the city website if we pass the resolutions that come in later on this evening. If we pass those resolutions, the information will be on the website at the latest 48 hours from now, if not before. There will be a map. You'll be able to consult that whole area, all the areas that are being affected throughout the city. It's not the whole city, to be brief, it's just the areas that we targeted in our public consultations. And we'll have someone there on October 11th to be able to explain all the changes that are being proposed. None of these changes are being approved tonight. That's something that's very important. We're approving draft bylaws and passing motions of notice tonight. There's nothing that's being changed. We're going to make the information public. We're going to meet with everyone and review exactly the changes that we're proposing. And after that, the council will sit down with the administration and decide what next steps we have to do. So I just want to rest assured to everyone that there is nothing that is being made into law tonight. These are just notices of intent and draft bylaws changes. Okay? So I'm just finishing up with the questions here. So if you'd like to go to the...
No, just on your date.
October 11th.
That's a weekday?
It's October 11th, okay? If we want to ask questions, we have to go to the microphone. I know, I don't want this evening to get out of hand, so it's best that we just follow procedure. Name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Joanne Ewasu, E-W-A-S-E-W, 285 Strathmore, District Number 5.
First time here, I think.
Oh, no, I've been here
It's been a while then.
another mayor. And I brought pictures. Can I show you something?
You can,
Yep.
if you'd like to,
No, you get to give it to le grec.
no, I'll take,
Spoke about it.
I'll take this.
Qu'est-ce qu'on commence? On va être-
Do you have a letter for us?
They resurfaced Strathmore all summer. And, we had to endure, change. Last year they did next door, a lake. It was a beautiful job, just gorgeous. The properties just look better. Us, look at that. This is what we're getting to live with. And I find also there are security reasons. What about this winter? It's rocks. Give me my green bag here. It's rocks they left there, so I'm thinking, how are they going to clean the street? Now, that's all going to probably fly onto our land. This is what we got in the front. So that's one question. It was-
Can I answer that question?
Yes.
Okay. So, to my knowledge, the project's not finished, but I'll ask Monsieur Hulot, are you aware that the project's finished? Because I didn't think it was. I don't think the project's finished at this time.
Okay, because the whole neighborhood was told it was.
Mr. Von Nort?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to ask Mr. Rouleau to comment on the specific gravel. With regards to the project, as last recollection, there are still a list of deficiencies that need to be corrected by the contractor. But it was last, I want to say Friday, that the Director General and I met to talk about that specific, about 1 foot of gravel on each side of Strathmore.
Yes.
Because that doesn't quite look like a deficiency. And I think I'm going to ask Mr. Rouleau to provide the explanation for that, but there is communication forthcoming, but we only discussed it 1 business day ago.
So it's not finished yet, or else can I have permission to remove those rocks? Because we have a snow blower. It's going to break it.
But I'm not going to answer Mr. Von Rores because what I see here is not what I've been discussing with our civil engineering director. So before I answer, I'm going to verify a few things because I see things here that I don't like. And it's not exactly what he told me. So before I answer publicly, I just want to make sure that, if you don't mind, I'll keep your
Oh, it's
pictures.
for you.
I know you cannot remove the rocks because they belong, it's the city property, but I will
Yes,
try to
right.
understand, because what I'm seeing here is not the discussion that I had since you came to see me with that issue. And I have more question to ask to the director. And I will be able, I got your address.
Yes.
And you can make sure that our director will contact you by phone directly or come and see you to tell you what's the issue. But there's a lot of things that I see here on every picture that I don't really appreciate, so I will get back to you
The
on that.
weeds that will grow out of it. I've seen that happen on the other side of my property with another construction. It's just, we worked very hard to clean that up, you know? And also, I have delivery for oil, okay? We have to put the snow blower all the way for the oil man. And there's the rocks now there. We're gonna have to shovel that now?
Like I said, I'm not going to
It's
answer.
not
I'm
yet.
going to ask a few questions because
It's
when
a northern country,
When
you
I
know?
had well, there's a reason for that. When there's no drainage on your street, there's drainage. That's what I don't understand tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I don't want to say things that I don't understand and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure of what I'm going to tell you. So I'd rather keep your picture, make sure that we have the right answer, and somebody will call you back, either
Great.
me or the director of civil engineering.
Right.
Because when we had the discussion, there was no drainage on your street. And what I see here, there's drainage.
Oh,
So
there's
that's why I
plenty.
don't understand. When there's no drainage, that's the way to drain the street. That's why we leave about a foot or two of crushed stone. Here, I see drainage. And the other thing that I see also is there's nothing that's level on your street. And that's why I said there's a few
Oh,
things
it's
that I don't
dreadful.
like.
Dreadful.
So that's why I'm telling you, I don't want to say things that I will regret. I just want to make sure that we'll give you the right answer.
Okay, dokie,
So
thank you
before
very
the end
much.
of the week, you will get information on this.
Okay, fine.
Mr. Von Royce and I will come visit you.
Okay.
It's a beautiful
talked
street.
many
We'll take a
times.
walk down the street.
Yes. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And put back the rocks, please, on the street.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Frank Brzezinski. I live at the same address. With the same construction, my concern is, and the question is, can the city think of putting in a way of alerting drivers on that street that is now newly paved that there are stop signs? I know that bumps are maybe out of the question, but there used to be a flashing signage that said that you were going over 30. That was removed before the renovation. And it's getting worse because on weekdays, car drivers are not paying attention to the two stop signs between Heron and Canary. And it's a little scary, quite honestly, because we don't have sidewalks, as you know, and we're forced to walk on the street or the grass. But I'm more concerned about the children that are living just on the corner of Starling and Strathmore. So I would just like to know if we could think about putting up something to alert drivers who obviously don't live on that street, that there are stop signs and they shouldn't go past 30 or at least 40. I've seen people going through there at 60. So maybe I should dress myself up as a police officer. And by the way, the last question is if I could take that $14,000 check back there.
Go ahead.
It'd be great.
It doesn't fit in the machine, but go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Before Mr. Von Roy, he's going to answer your question, I thought you were going to complain that the skateboarders were going too fast down the street. Said newly paved street is the best.
Well, that's the concern. After we spoke, I want to say last week, that same day, I put in a request to have the mobile speed readers that you've mentioned. So that request is sitting with the circulation committee. I'm not sure when exactly that's coming, but it was put in. With regards to vehicles respecting stop signs, I think as some people know, but maybe not everybody, so I'll use this as a public service announcement. Public security can't issue tickets for cars that don't respect stop signs. So as soon as a vehicle is moving, it goes beyond what we can directly intervene with. But we have a good relationship with the police, the district police, the SPVM, who sit on the circulation committee. And if we have specific requests, whether it's for speeding or stops that aren't being respected, we can pass that on to them. They just always ask if we can give them a specific time of day, you know, a couple hours when it's at its worst, so that they can really target it because they're not going to be there all week or for a prolonged period. So if you want, either now or afterwards, we can speak tomorrow. If you have a recommendation for a specific time, I'll transmit that request as well to the SPVM. I will make the correction that I don't think it's just people who don't live on Strathmore that speed on Strathmore, because living also on a north-south axis between Heron and Lakeshore, it's not just people using our streets, but it's the residents of the street itself that I think need to be careful when they're driving. I think to your request, educating people, making them aware of the speed they're going is absolutely constructive, and I plan on pushing for that request.
Thank you, Mr. Von Royce. excuse me. The microphone's empty. There's got to be someone who has a question.
C'est bon, mais bonjour, Maxime Saint-Denis, 350 Cloverdale. Thank you very much. I just want to thank the city first for the consultation. You know, that was a new way of doing business, which was very much appreciated. I live on Cloverdale, which most of you already know. For the purpose, I'm here really because I've tried to stay away and let the process run. I looked at the agenda meeting for this session and had quite a few questions related to the notice of motion and then the adoption of draft bylaws in the same meeting. So for me, I don't know if that is a regular process. The consultation, which was about the sondage, then the actual in-person working sessions, and then a report. And for me, a report that is seeking content, like comments, is a draft report. So we did send in quite a few comments. A lot of people did. I did. I found the responses lacking clarity. And at this time, I'm not really here to complain about these proposed zoning changes because we don't have them. At least it's my understanding the citizens who have participated, spending thousands of hours on this, do not know yet what has come out of that work. So for me, the process is about, it's not quite complete, that consultation. So I'm a little bit, you relieved me with the opening statement, but there's still some concern that, I understand the notice of motion of tabling, that makes sense to be able to present. What scares us, the community, is this adoption right away of the draft bylaw. Okay, because it looks like it's being sped through when we've already spent 11 months. Is why do we need to do both today for the purposes of keeping that transparency, letting the citizens go to the 11th. So just do the notice of motion, do the 11th, then come back with the adoption of the draft after receiving feedback. The zoning bylaws are very rigid, minimums and maximum. The qualitative aspect that's associated with the PEA, which I don't like that process because the PEA is only instigated once the promoter comes with a project. And you look at it with your committee, and then afterwards, that's presented to the community. It's very closed door. I think there's an opportunity now with the proposed zoning, with whoever you're going to present, to start to listen to the community, not for purposes of maybe some people will complain about heights. I'm not here to complain about heights. I'm here about looking at high-value projects moving forward where the developers aren't there first. So if you look at the boathouse, and I know the owners are here, I have no issues personally with the proposed zoning at eight floors, but it's how it integrates, ça mèche dans la communauté avec les maisons unifamiliales, basse densité, to make sure that, you know, the road is not open, that the densification, they're not using Cloverdale Mimosa to access that site. These are the type of things that are of high quality that need to be listened to help inform, I would say, the city, not for the zoning, but when you do have a promoter come and see you, so you can represent us. I've always asked for proactive engagement with the community. So this is something I would like to propose. The concern from the citizens is the adoption of draft bylaws today.
Okay, so Max, I hear two questions there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let Madame Achachena answer your second one, which is, you know, what's going to happen now, and how are we going to make sure that we have projects that are sane, that integrate into the community? There's lots of ways of doing it. You can step up buildings. You can keep taller buildings near roads and smaller buildings near established communities. There's green spaces to be worked in there. Madame Achachena will discuss that. To your question about an avis and a draft motion at the same time, we've always worked like that in Dorval. Now, you know, the important thing is, do we get to point X? How do we get there? We can go to the right and around the corner and get there, or we can take a straight line and get to the same spot. What we're doing here today is, well, if we don't do the draft, approve the draft, I can't present you the information. and I want to present you the information. I think we've done a really good job with that.
Yeah.
So we're going to, I'm hoping the council will approve the draft, which will lead us to publicizing all this information. And I know you'll say, well, you should show it to us first. But we're going to give the public a lot of, we're going to present it with the people who were at the consultations, who ran the consultations, who helped us finalize all this data. They will be there. It won't just be us. We'll explain it. We'll give time for the public to comment, to provide feedback. Mrs. Cornwallier, a few months ago, we had another such project, and she brought to our attention a comment sur les redevances. She brought a comment to us. We thought it made a lot of sense, and we modified the document to do it. We modified and integrated her comment into that règlement. So we will, I think we can get there different ways. The consultations, I think, I would like to see as many people come as possible. I think there's a lot of great information in there, and it's the next 15 years, so I hope people will come. That being said, there'll be discussions, there'll be room for people to make comments. Council will then be gathered together to review those comments and work with our administration and integrate some of this if we need to integrate stuff. And then we will come back. And that's why we're not saying when we're going to adopt this. There's no date to adopt.
The concern was the consultation is on the 11th. When's the next council? There's not enough time in my feeling
I
to
agree
do
with
that.
you.
So this is the piece where it is. It's an opportunity to ask the citizens for the qualitative piece that you get in the PEO when the citizens aren't at the meeting because the promoter's coming. So I think it's a critical piece. 11 months, we've worked on this. It's 11-year horizon. If it takes 1 or 2 or 3, I'm not saying how long. I think it needs to take the right time for people to feel like they have participated fully. And you'll never get 100% buy-in, but you need to get the 80% rule. I think there's an opportunity for that. So that's just really where I am.
Madame Achachena,
Je veux juste ajouter, M. Saint-Denis. You speak French or English? What?
Je parle les deux. Il n'y a pas de problème, monsieur.
Monsieur Saint-Denis, il faut comprendre une chose, puis pour l'ensemble des gens qui sont à la maison puis ici, l'objectif d'adopter l'avis de motion et le premier projet n'est pas l'objectif de finalité, comme le maire l'a mentionné. La finalité, c'est 2 autres résolutions plus loin. Si les élus, le 11, suite à l'ensemble des discussions qui auront eu lieu, jugent à propos de ralentir la machine administrative que je gère, ils vont tout simplement nous dire on n'est pas prêt, c'est pas ça qu'on veut, retourner à la table à dessin. Donc, ce qu'il faut comprendre, c'est que la décision du conseil de ce soir, demain matin, comme le maire l'a mentionné, le zonage n'est pas changé. Il y a d'autres étapes qui viennent et la finalité, c'est lors de l'adoption du projet, l'adoption du règlement. Là, on est dans un projet de règlement et c'est les étapes légales qu'on doit suivre. Mais la finalité, si le 11, il y a 3000 personnes dans la salle, puis les élus disent ouf, on n'a pas compris ce qui s'est dit, les élus nous donneront une orientation différente. C'est important.
Oui, je veux regarder en avant. Mais notre historique, c'est qu'est-ce qui s'est passé avant ton arrivée. Si on a de l'historique, je pense que tu es au courant. On se méfie un petit peu, mais je ne veux pas y aller en arrière. On regarde en avant.
On m'en a parlé de l'historique. C'est aussi pour ça que c'est pas juste la question de changement de zonage, le règlement de zonage. Un règlement de zonage, puis je laisse Mme Achachena parler après, mais le règlement de zonage, c'est très, très strict. Des fois, quand on met des limites strictes, on se ramasse avec un projet qu'on n'est pas satisfait. Le règlement de PIA ici, puis là, je suis plus au niveau administratif et non dans les détails, est très vieux. Il ne donne pas beaucoup de poignes, autant au niveau environnemental qu'au niveau architectural. Les élus, une grande partie des élus ont vu ce qui se faisait ailleurs, on est allé voir ailleurs. Et c'est pour ça que Mme Achachena a rédigé un devis pour chercher une firme pour nous faire un règlement de PIA qui est plus strict, plus poignant, plus pour atteindre la volonté des membres du conseil et du comité d'environnement pour avoir des projets de qualité qui vont faire ce que vous disiez.
Ils nous représentent.
L'exemple que vous mentionniez est un exemple tout à fait très opportun. Vous ne voulez pas que les gens qui vont habiter dans le 6, 7, 8 étages passent sur la rue résidentielle. C'est tout à fait normal, c'est une rue d'unifamilial. Le PIA va nous permettre de faire ça. Règlement de zonage dit que vous avez droit à 2 entrées, qu'elles soient en avant ou en arrière, le fonctionnaire ne peut rien dire. Donc, c'est pour ça que le PIA est un outil complémentaire d'une très haute importance, mais celui qu'on a n'a pas beaucoup de poignes. Fait que souvent, on a les 2 mains attachées et on ne veut pas avoir les mains attachées, on va avoir les 2 mains sur le volant. Je laisse Mme Achaché.
Juste pour compléter, tout d'abord, j'aimerais beaucoup vous voir le 11.
Oh, je vous garantis que je vais être là le 11.
D'accord,
Oh, oui.
très bien, parce que c'est très important qu'on puisse aussi prendre le temps de vous expliquer qu'est-ce qu'on est en train de faire. Ça ressort vraiment des consultations publiques. Alors, non seulement on vient bonifier le plan d'urbanisme durable pour tous les secteurs, on les assujettissant au nouveau PIA, on vient bonifier les marges arrière, on vient imposer des hauteurs là où il n'y en avait pas, un maximum, et on vient rehausser parfois des hauteurs là où c'était nécessaire de le faire. On le fait avant que l'agglomération de Montréal ne le fasse pour nous. Donc, ça, c'est extrêmement important. Puis, on s'assure que ça soit au respect de ce que nos citoyens nous ont donné comme recommandation. Donc, on a travaillé avec ça, c'est extrêmement important. M. Rouleau avait dit qu'on avait un vieux règlement PIA, mais on a aussi des vieux règlements de zonage. Donc, on tente du mieux qu'on peut d'améliorer ça. C'est 30 ans de rattrapage. Parallèlement, il y a des projets en attente, donc on ne peut pas non plus se prendre le privilège de 35 ans pour réviser notre réglementation, donc il faut le faire fur et à mesure. La nouvelle génération de PIA va certainement vous satisfaire parce qu'on a tenté de retirer des paramètres dont les développeurs nous imposent faute de poursuite si on n'adhère pas à leurs paramètres là, normatifs pour donner plus de force au règlement discrétionnaire dans la négociation de la qualité des projets. Puis on va plus loin que de mieux intégrer les interfaces des projets dans leur milieu d'insertion. On va plus loin. On veut en faire des écoquartiers, on veut en faire des milieux de vie. On veut vraiment que ça soit des quartiers plus ouverts, plus verdis. Donc, on s'en va là. On va vous l'expliquer le 11. On va prendre bien le temps de vous l'expliquer pour chaque secteur selon ses particularités. Mais j'ose espérer que c'est un très grand pas qu'on fait, une belle avancée.
Je vais ajouter aussi à ce que Mme Achachena, elle a parlé beaucoup du domaine privé, mais la Ville aussi va avoir un travail à faire. Les citoyens nous l'ont demandé pour accommoder ces gens-là qui s'en viennent. Je ne parle pas sur les rues résidentielles. Au contraire, on ne veut pas qu'ils s'en aillent partout, mais sur les grands axes, comme Bouchard, par exemple. La question d'une piste cyclable sur sa longueur complète, des trottoirs plus larges, etc. Fait que vous allez voir, je vous invite aussi à suivre le PTI qui va être présenté aux membres du conseil pour adoption au mois de novembre, où là aussi, on a des sommes d'argent qui vont être réservées pour accompagner tout ce beau développement-là qui va faire de notre cité va être encore plus conviviale. Moi, ça fait 1 an que je suis ici, ça fait 1 an que j'entends qu'il faut trouver de différentes méthodes pour la mobilité. Mais c'est sûr qu'avec un trottoir de 4 pieds de large, c'est difficile. Donc, tout ça va être mis en branle et tout ça rattache ensemble.
Ouais.
Est-ce que je pourrais parler, Monsieur le maire?
Allez-y, monsieur.
Oui, bonjour, Monsieur Saint-Denis. Très heureux de vous voir ici. Et je tiens à souligner votre grande implication dans le quartier. C'est notable. Bravo. J'ai demandé d'avoir une réunion d'information avant le 11. Comme ça, je sais que dans notre quartier, il y a des gens qui manquent de confiance avec ce qui s'est passé dans le quartier. Il y a eu 2 demandes de scrutin référendaire. Et puis, après ça, ben là, c'est le temps de reprendre la confiance entre nous. Donc, moi, je pense pas que si on avait fait une session d'information, comme présentement, on aurait pu faire une session d'information, comme les villes de Gatineau l'ont fait, avant d'adopter. Parce que lorsqu'on adopte, ben là, vous nous demandez d'avoir un lien de confiance. When we adopt right away, I know it's a draft bylaw, but it's an act of confidence toward us. And in the past, I don't think it was there, the confidence. So we need to rebuild that. And an information session, which is transparent, where you can ask all your questions and everything. This is what our jobs is. And we need to, for me, the principe de concordance is the first. You know, I had to read all about it this weekend, and there's consequence to it. And I've been told that the consequence is you're going to lose your right to a petition to have a referendum if you're opposed to some projects. But this is something I have to read on because I'm not the specialist. But it would have been nice to have an information session right away so the public can ask all their questions to our experts and what will be the impact of everything. Because once we adopt it, we cannot make big changes. You know, we can listen, we can drop some stuff, but to add more stuff, it's hard, according to what I read.
Merci. Je vais demander ma troisième question du dernier parole. C'est qu'est-ce que j'entends, c'est positif. Puis qu'est-ce que j'entends aujourd'hui, c'est enregistré. Alors, je vois, I see a path forward. Okay, I don't want to go back. And I want to be very clear, the Mimdale community was never against development. But c'était toujours présenté comme fait accompli. Puis les promoteurs, vous le savez, les promoteurs, le profit, c'est les derniers étages. Puis les plus qu'ils peuvent mettre, le plus de densité, c'est du profit. Mais pas au détriment des résidents aujourd'hui. On cherche une balance appropriée. C'est tout. Troisième question. 180 degrés. Chez nous, ça c'est plus spécifiquement à moi. Mon voisin arrière, c'est le Jockey Bar. Alors, il y a une ruelle, ce strip-mall-là. J'ai appelé la police 2 fois cette semaine. Ma voisine, la semaine passée, ça fait au moins une demi-douzaine de fois cet été. Au courant des 5-6 dernières années, c'est récurrent. Il y a du monde qui utilise le derrière. Ils s'en vont au couche-tard acheter leur alcool. Je ne veux pas donner les détails de la communauté en question. Je n'ai pas besoin. Puis il utilise ça dans le contexte pour boire son sou. Il y a des batailles. Il y a d'autres choses qui se produisent. Puis cet été, j'ai trouvé des drug paraphernalia chez nous, dans mon coin arrière. Alors, j'ai toujours été avisé d'appeler le 911, mais la police ont d'autres urgences qui priment. Par le temps qui arrive, souvent, ils ne sont pas là. Je ne veux pas m'ingérer là-dedans. Quand j'étais plus jeune, peut-être, mais moins là. Il y a de la sagesse avec de l'âge. Je demande aujourd'hui s'il y a des membres du conseil qui sont sur un comité de sécurité publique ou est-ce qu'il y a le représentant de la communauté de la police. Je ne veux pas y aller tout seul au quartier pour avoir la discussion. Je pense qu'il y a un meilleur véhicule via la ville, parce que je sais que la ville vit avec cette situation-là aussi. Je cherche à trouver des solutions. Peut-être le propriétaire aussi pourrait faire partie de la discussion pour trouver des solutions d'éclairage ou des caméras. Je ne sais pas, je ne suis pas spécialiste. Je demande de l'aide. Y a-t-il une possibilité d'avoir un appel de quelqu'un qui est responsable de la sécurité publique ou le comité ou avoir des discussions avec la police pour trouver des solutions?
Merci, Max. On est très au courant qu'il y a des enjeux à la ville. Moi, je suis sur le comité de sécurité publique de l'agglomération. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? On a une problématique incroyable dans les 2 dernières années. Hein? Pas tout simplement à Dorval, mais à travers la ville. Les montants de personnes qui vivent itinérants, qui vivent dans la rue, a grandement monté. Mais ça amène des problématiques, comme tu mentionnes. Nous autres, dans la ville, et je vais laisser M. Rouleau répondre, on travaille en concertation avec notre PDQ 5. On travaille avec des ressources comme Ajoie, travailleurs de rue, et aussi je peux parler avec des personnes qui comprennent bien la situation à Montréal, en particulier au centre-ville comme Cabot Square. Donc, je vais laisser M. Rouleau parler de la sécurité publique. Moi, je suis prêt à vous rencontrer si vous voulez.
Je cherche tout simplement à avoir une discussion, pas ici, dans le contexte que c'est assez sensible. C'est juste que la police vient, la sécurité publique vient, mais c'est une communauté de transition. Ça change. Au moment donné, c'est le reset continuel. Je cherche des solutions. C'est tout. Je veux juste savoir si quelqu'un pourrait m'appeler.
On pourrait.
C'est tout. Puis on pourra en discuter pour essayer de trouver des solutions. Pas pour demain. Je suis patient.
Non, non, on a des annonces à faire bientôt pour un nouveau programme. Je ne veux pas parler de ça maintenant, mais on est ouvert à vous rencontrer, puis on va discuter de qu'est-ce qu'on essaie de faire.
Pas besoin de dire beaucoup, juste...
Rapidement, l'enjeu n'est pas juste d'arrêt chez vous, il est à d'autres endroits. Avec le service de police, il y a 3 travailleuses communautaires, police communautaire. Je suis siège sur un comité aussi avec où les gens proviennent. On travaille avec le ministère de la Santé qui est inclus là-dedans. Au service de police, il y a aussi une personne qui fait le lien, qui est autochtone. Donc, il y a beaucoup de gens qui travaillent là-dessus. Vous savez, l'enjeu des Autochtones est un enjeu très particulier. Oui. Alors oui, il y a des choses qui se font, qui ne se voient pas, mais je vous invite peut-être, au lieu d'appeler le service de police, d'appeler directement notre service de sécurité publique, qui, eux, vont pouvoir se déplacer, rendus là, jugeront nécessaire d'appeler la police ou pas. Ils ont des numéros de téléphone que vous n'avez pas quand il y a des enjeux. Quand vous trouvez ce que vous avez trouvé, la police va se déplacer rapidement. Je peux aussi vous dire que le bar a été visité à plusieurs reprises pour des actions non conformes à la loi sur la vente de produits alcooliques. Donc, on tape sur tous les clous pour trouver des solutions, mais on va vous rencontrer pour mieux connaître votre
je pourrais avoir une petite... Je vous remercie beaucoup.
Merci. Avant qu'on procède aux prochaines questions, Mme la greffière aimerait faire un point sur l'interrogation de M. Brault à la dernière question.
Oui, dans le fond, M. Saint-Denis, à votre deuxième question, j'aimerais juste apporter une précision. M. Brault a parlé d'un processus référendaire tout à l'heure. Pour les règlements de modification au plan d'urbanisme durable ainsi que le règlement de concordance, ce n'est pas la procédure référendaire qu'on connaît, comme pour le changement de zonage. Donc, à 3.8, 3.9, le changement de zonage qui est indiqué va faire l'objet d'un processus référendaire tel qu'on le connaît. Par contre, les 4, donc 3.4, 5, 6 et 7, c'est une procédure de consultation publique, donc celle qu'on va avoir le 11, ainsi qu'un certificat de conformité de l'agglomération de Montréal et un certificat de conformité de la Commission municipale du Québec. Donc, la procédure est différente. Tout ça va être plus amplement expliqué à l'Assemblée du 11 octobre.
Est-ce que je peux avoir une précision? Donc, c'est seulement pour le règlement de concordance que cela est différent pour
La modification au plan d'urbanisme et le règlement de concordance sont assujettis à la même procédure, celle que je viens de mentionner.
M. Brault, à ce point-ci, toutes les questions vont être répondues à la consultation du 11 octobre. Et je pense que là, vous pouvez même poser la question à ce point-là. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions au micro?
Bonsoir, Fernando Pédécer, 210 Neptune.
Bienvenue.
Je m'excuse, M. Rouleau, Mme Chessel,
Normalement, le processus pour livrer des documents au conseil, là, parce que c'est 2 fois ce soir, le processus normal est de les amener à l'assistante greffière et elle va faire la distribution et prendre les détails des personnes qui amènent ces documents-là. J'aimerais mentionner que ça, c'est le processus à suivre pour qu'on ne devienne pas habitué à faire quelque chose qu'on ne devrait pas faire.
I didn't have the time to send them in before noon, and you can send attachments.
So we won't send you to the jail today, but next time.
That's fine. I understand. Fine. Question 1. Further to my question of last month, has the city reviewed the need to complete an assessment of heritage interest of the 12 Dahlia site and buildings, 80, as required by bylaw RCM 60C 2015? We discussed that last month. And I asked that question last month, and you said be looking at it. I just wondering if you had a chance to look at it.
We haven't finalized all the work we need to do to 12 Dahlia to decide what we're going to do with it. So at this point, It's on the to-do list. It's not the top of our to-do list. We have October 11th and a lot of what's here tonight to get through first, but I assure you we will review that at some point.
Okay, it's a part of the process that needs to be looked at.
Just to put it into context, we've had the Maison du Jardinier for years and years, and we're just getting around to working on that property. So, we're not in a rush. It's not next month.
Okay, we'll follow it. Question number 2 has been asked. Well, I'll read it out, but you've already answered most of it. Further to the urban planning survey currently being completed by BC2 and prior to the implementation of any urban planning bylaw changes, when will the public have a briefing and discussion of the proposed changes? Note that when the survey was announced on December 20th, 2022, Phase 04, final vision, planning orientation, and preliminary implementation strategies, which included the release and adoption of regulatory projects, was proposed to be completed by last June. I also note that the mayor has confirmed during the survey meetings and at previous council meetings that there will be a public review process before any changes to urban plan are approved. Now, October 11th, I suppose, is that.
That is the date. I certainly didn't want to bring this to you in July because I would have been told a lot of nasty things.
Well, no, we're trying to be polite here.
We're just trying to be mindful of what people have said to us in the past.
That's right. The point that Mr. Saint-Denis made, I think is quite valid, is the issue of review process and adopting a draft bylaw now is specifically that, a draft. And that this council and you, Mr. Mayor, will be open to, and Madame Hachachan and Monsieur Rouleau, open to revisions and discussions of what the city will be looking like in the future. I just hope this is not a rubber stamping process of putting in a draft bylaw and not listening to the changes. Because the survey that was done in January of last year, to me, is a collection of data. That data is then interpreted and used to create regulations. It's the process of the regulations where the meat of the question is, and that is where the debate has to occur.
Mr. Pellicer, I've been mayor for 2 years. We spent the last year discussing urban planning. When's the last time that's happened in Dorval?
No, I understand. We agree that is the process.
Are we going to all agree 100% on what we're going to do? Absolutely not. I have and clearly explained that this council is open to listening. I used an example from Mrs. Cornway a few months ago. We're always able to listen, understand, and we will try our hardest to make the right decisions for our community. And that's what I can promise. Well, to what was said earlier, are we going to get everybody on board 100%? Absolutely not. That would be wishful thinking. And so we will listen to everybody, and at some point, we're going to make the decisions that we feel that are best for the community, but we will do that after we have listened to what everybody has said, and we've done nothing but listen to people up until here. And I just want everybody to just be patient. 24 more hours. The chart will be public, and I think you will be very much surprised at what is in there, because there's no such document that's ever come out like this document in the city.
Fine. My only concern is that we're open to discussion and revisions as required. Okay, that's enough said. Thank you on that. And finally, the third question. As confirmed by the urban planning study, one of the great benefits of living in Dorval is that we are a waterfront city. However, contrary to Lachine, which has a visibly open and lengthy waterfront, Dorval's waterfront is mostly residential, where views and public contact with the water are limited to a few parks, Millennium, Pine Beach, and Wellwell Bay parks. What is unfortunate to see is that these limited views of the river are being reduced by an overgrowth of underbrush and weeds along the water's edge. Attached are some photos which show how poor the situation has become, which is why I presented the photos. I understand the need to keep vegetation along the waterfront to prevent soil erosion. but that is not an excuse to let such high view blocking and undergrowth go out of control. My question is, will the city undertake to better control this undesirable vegetation and reduce its height to allow a better views of the river for the enjoyment of all the citizens?
Okay, I can see Mr. Von Royce. I've been even not looking at him, and I can see he's just begging to get in there. So he's going to answer that question. The reality, Mr. Pellicer, is that we cannot cut trees anymore. The law does not prevent us from doing that. As crazy as it's going to sound, I had a counselor in another city actually call me recently and say, well, secretly, what are you guys doing to make sure that there's no trees? And we're not doing anything. The law just simply does not permit us at this point in time to cut trees. Some parks, trees will grow, and some parts, they will not. What we have is a project in the works. Mr. Von Royce will speak to it. I know that Mr. Rouleau has had a lot of challenges, but he will kickstart this program again. And that will help us manage our shorelines. But the days of having a blanket clear view of any park no longer exists. I encourage you to take a drive into Lachine on the waterfront, La Salle, onto the waterfront, and good luck finding the river. It is, and Monsieur Hulot will testify, it's trees all over the place. That is where we are with the environment. Mr. Von Royce, do you want to explain a little bit what the project we're doing?
So, I mean, just Mr. Pellicer, to Mr. Dorier's point, the smile that you didn't see under my mask is because he and I discussed this less than 2 weeks ago, because you're not the only one to have noticed the state of Valois Bay. The challenge is, and I mean, I appreciate you noting the importance of vegetation to deter erosion. Challenge is that we are restricted in those first few meters of shoreline and what we can do because it doesn't technically belong to us. So the work that Mr. Dorier just made reference to about shorelines is a fairly large, ambitious project that the city spearheaded, I'm going to say, just over a year ago in a partnership with UMQ, the Union of Quebec Municipalities, because they have expertise, or some expertise in this area, as it pertains to dealing with the appropriate ministries at a provincial and federal level to be able to do stuff to the shoreline, to reduce erosion, to improve access to the lake, but also to better manage our views of the lake and access to the lake. So the expectation, is that when that work reaches a certain point, we will be able to do more to improve our access and views of the lake, but also do whatever we can to prevent erosion. And it's not just Valois Bay, but the various public pieces of shoreline land. But for the immediate moment, I think, as Mr. Dorier mentioned, there's not much we can do for better or worse to that.
That's for the immediate moment, but you can see that the overgrowth is taking over. I'm not against vegetation at the riverfront. I'm just saying that the height of that vegetation, we can have low growth vegetation that allows you to keep the water retention and the erosion question under control, but you can limit the amount of bad weeds and undesirable brushes that grow uselessly.
But we can't do that.
But you can if you work with the Ministry of Environment and come to understanding of what can be done. So it's not,
And you can create openings. And you can create openings as well.
Yes.
But there's
Limited
a framework involved in that.
And I'm not saying either to strip it clean, not at all. What I'm saying is a balance that has to be achieved. And so you can have views and less views.
Hold on. Monsieur Bro?
Just quickly, I'm finishing. 2 years ago, Point Claire, just past the point where Dorval ends and Point Claire starts, it was a complete disaster. Like, you could not see the lake at all. It was like a wall of shrubs. And Point Claire cleared that 2 years ago. It's regrowing again, but at least it gave a view of the lake from along Lakeshore Road, which was agreeable. So Point Claire managed to do it.
They didn't.
They did.
Yeah, they did it, and they were fine. Just as like we did it, and we were fine. We can't do that. What was done in the past anymore.
The Ministry of the Environment. Okay, well, that's a job to do. Put it on create another file, and
it's absolutely on the list.
More paperwork. All right, thank you.
Monsieur Pellicer, par rapport à ça, c'est la loi sur la qualité de l'environnement qui exige de conserver 10 mètres sans toucher à la végétation. Par rapport à ce que vous avez mentionné de la négociation avec le ministère de l'Environnement, c'est possible, vous avez raison, d'obtenir un certificat d'autorisation. Je l'ai fait pour Verdun, à l'île des Sœurs. 2 ans et demi de discussion, on n'a jamais eu de certificat. Le ministère est fermé à ça.
Ouais.
Parce que c'est ça qui contrôle la qualité du réseau fluvial et hydrique. Merci. Donc, c'est très difficile à obtenir ça. Et comme le maire l'a mentionné, si on s'avise à toucher à ça, on a eu une amende déjà, on n'en aura pas 2. La prochaine, elle va coûter cher.
Je comprends, mais on cherche tout de même un équilibre. Alors, comment trouver cet équilibre? Je vous laisse dans les mains.
You leave us with the big challenges, eh, Mr. Pellicer? Balance. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions au micro, s'il vous plaît? To the city clerk, please. Bring them to the city clerk, please. Yeah. Yeah, and Mrs. Jones, I'm just going to come back and say, normally, we don't present the documents here at the table. They are normally presented to the assistant clerk, who's sitting at that table. This isn't not just Dorval; it's all cities, and I just don't want people to get in the habit that they can just come up and present anything. We're going to allow it today. Correct.
Je m'excuse, il y a un débat, puis les gens à la maison ne l'entendent pas. Pouvez-vous aller au micro, s'il vous plaît? Could you go to the mic, please? So people at home, they can listen to what you're saying.
Okay, this is regarding the stone. Am I?
You're on.
I'm okay?
Bring it down a little bit, maybe. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. The stone wall at St. Charles Park, this is a follow-up question.
Vicki, and Mrs. Jones, can we have your address, please,
Oh, I'm
for the
sorry.
city clerk?
Sorry.
Name and address, but I've already called your name out.
Vicki Jones at 350 Lakeshore.
Thank you.
I've brought this issue up many times, as did somebody again last month. I think it was Mr. Pellicer. I've given you all a photograph collage of the wall in question so that you can reference it. The top left, by the bus stop, is the pillar that remained after the installation of the bus stop itself. The top right is the pile of stones, not rocks, that you referred to last month, which I brought to the Council's attention in September 2022. I'm going to quote what I brought my question. Regarding the historic wall at the entrance to St. Charles Park on Lakeshore, next to the bus stop, there's a large pile of broken stones, which appears to be from part of the wall. This has been like this for quite a while. Is it possible to send somebody to inspect and assess the damage to the stones before they're vandalized? Your reply to that was yes, and the DG and myself will go and check the stones. Nothing was ever done about it. There was no follow-up or any report of a visit. Last month it was again brought up, and the mayor said that the rocks were mainly broken and there's not enough to rebuild. The photo on the bottom right are some of the pallets of stones taken on the day before. They were unceremoniously removed and dumped into a dump truck. Clearly, there's enough stones to rebuild the column as seen in the top left photograph. Question is, will the city locate these stones, which belongs to the historic wall, and restore the pillar to its previous place at the side of the bus stop on Lakeshore. As indicated last month, it has nothing to do with removing the bus stop, which the mayor was under the impression that we were asking to remove the bus stop. So the question is, will you find the stones and put them back?
Well, I answered that we have the stones, so I think the question to be answered is, can we rebuild the pillar? And I'll have a discussion with the DG this week.
Because that's only some of those rocks.
Well, that's all that's left. What was on the ground on the pallets, it's what's left.
No, there was 3 other pallets full.
Well, whatever, my comment was that all the rocks that were not used in the rebuilding of the wall and the pillar, which the work is not complete, by the way, have been saved.
Right.
Yeah, we had to clear the street. You know, I'll point this out for people at home and for yourself. St. Charles Park was not supposed to open until the end of September, maybe the first weekend of October. That was the original timeline of that project. However, if we had done an opening in the middle of October, I don't think it would have been a whole lot of fun. And I put a very heavy hand on the DG and his engineering department to make sure that this park was open this summer. And I think that's the best decision that we did. The response has been incredible. But for that, we had to, there are some things that didn't get done that need to get done. There's a few pieces of equipment that need to be installed. The wall needs to be finished. They all have to be capped. My understanding is that it's going to start, last report I had heard was between now and the end of the month. And we'll validate whether that is still on track, but they need to be capped. And all of the stones that were in the street have been capped now. Some are damaged in the wall to begin with.
But looking at those photographs, they're not damaged.
But
but
I've answered the question. We have the stones. We have them.
And they were dumped into a dump truck from a great height. I saw them doing it.
Okay, I wasn't there. I can't validate that.
I was there and I saw them.
But we have the stones.
Okay, so can you ask for that pillar to be reinstalled?
I will discuss it with the DG.
Okay.
This week.
You gave some information about the upcoming bylaws. I won't rehash what you said. I'm just questioning the date. Is that a weekday?
It is a weekday.
Okay. So
We have certain legal constraints, calendars that we have to follow. We chose that day because if you look at the other public consultations that we had earlier this year, it was clear that the evening consultations were far more popular and well attended as compared to the weekend date. And October, that weekend, the first weekend of October, it's, there's a lot of students back at school. There's people going to chalets. I believe that the DG took his family members apple picking the other day, and I'm sure I'm going to be roped into that any day soon. So, we've had this discussion in council tonight. Should we have a weekend date? We're going to reflect on that. If we announce a second date, it might be a weekend date.
Est-ce que je peux avoir la parole?
Okay.
Oui,
Sorry?
Monsieur Rowe. Oui, Monsieur.
I asked that question to City Council, which would be the best date. I thought maybe the weekend, but according to the attendance that we had the last consultation, apparently, it was better on a weekday. So we'll make a decision. But I also asked that we have a daycare for families so they can attend, so we can have a broader clientele coming to the consultation too.
Good idea. Very good. So I have a question too here, which was a bit of a curiosity. So in your Article 3.4, included, it says the amending the Sustainable Master Plan of Dorval, including, and I quote from the article, new orientations for its requalification sectors. When I searched the Sustainable Master Plan bylaw, which is 90 pages long, there's absolutely no mention of requalification sectors.
Those are the sectors that were part of the public consultations.
Yeah, but the wording is that you're replacing new orientations in the requalification sectors of the master plan.
Correct. We're changing those conditions. That's what's going to be presented
But
on
there are
October
no
11th.
requalification sectors in the master plan.
French, it's okay? In French?
Sort of.
I'll translate it after.
OK. Les 8 secteurs dont on fait mention dans cet amendement-là, c'est les 8 secteurs qui ont fait l'objet de consultations publiques. Ces 8 secteurs-là, je vous dirais, c'est les derniers terrains de requalification et de redéveloppement qui sont sur notre territoire. Nous avons déjà des orientations dans notre plan d'urbanisme durable. Ce qu'on vient d'intégrer ici, c'est un cadre d'aménagement pour les 8 secteurs spécifiques pour s'assurer de bien attacher l'amendement du règlement de zonage à ces secteurs-là. Et le nouveau PIA qui s'en vient dans quelques mois, dans l'adoption s'en vient dans quelques mois, permettra de mieux encadrer la qualité architecturale et urbanistique, l'intégration urbaine de ces grands projets. Donc, c'est vraiment le but. Puis dans la soirée, on va pouvoir mieux vous l'expliquer, mieux l'imager et répondre à vos questions.
Just before I translate what she just said, but if you look at 3.4 and 3.5, we're saying to intégrer un cadre d'aménagement pour les secteurs de requalification. So it's not there right now. That's what Madame Achachena mentioned, and the 8 different spots that we have on the city. But in French, it says fin d'intégrer. So that's normal that you don't see.
What?
It says d'intégrer. I don't have the English version. Attends une seconde.
In order to
I don't
integrate,
have. On veut juste un à la fois, s'il vous plaît. On parle d'intégration. I don't know what's the version in English.
It says
I don't have it
in
here.
order to include the new orientations for its requalifications sectors.
Okay. In French, it says d'intégrer, which is to include. So I don't have the English version of the.
But it's still, if it's
title.
saying to include the new orientations,
It's probably a translation
Yeah, to include
mistake
is
because
fine.
in French, and it's the French version that prevail in
my
Quebec.
point is there's no requalification
I
section.
understand. What I'm saying, Mrs. Jones, that it's probably on the translation when they made the title, because in French it says to integrate un cadre d'aménagement. So it's probably within the French, the translation that the wording is not right. But in Quebec, the document that are legal value is the French one. And in French, if you take it, you'll see it says au fin d'intégrer un cadre d'aménagement, which means that's why you don't see it in le plan d'aménagement durable.
There could be an error between reintegrate and integrate between
But
versions of French and
does-
English.
So are the words there that...
So Monsieur
there is-
Rouleau is saying that the French version, which is the version that the
No,
government accepts, it says integrate, not reintegrate.
My point, integrate or reintegrate, or where are the requalification sectors that it's referring to?
Elle veut savoir So, Mrs. Jones, again, it's going to be in the chart that we've been talking about all night. It will be available online at the latest Wednesday, likely sooner, and that's what we're going to discuss in the presentations.
But that's not, anyway, that's not, that probably won't be in the presentation because this is what you're adopting tonight.
We're adopting a draft bylaw.
That's correct.
Okay, there's nothing final about this. We're not approving anything, we're not changing
But I was
anything.
just trying to find out how you put an orientation in a sector that doesn't exist.
They exist. We've been talking about them for the last year. But that's why
The requalification sectors,
yes. You know what they are, they're along Bouchard.
but they're not in the master plan.
J'ai répondu à la question, on peut tourner en rond, là, mais prenons la version en français et on parle d'intégrer un cadre d'aménagement. Donc, je
We're gonna
demanderais
insert.
de voir demain, vous allez voir les nouveaux endroits. Et nous, on va vérifier de notre côté, est-ce que dans la traduction anglais-français, pouvez-vous fermer votre micro, s'il vous plaît, parce que ça fait de l'écho, merci. Donc, dans la traduction anglais-français, nous allons valider, est-ce qu'il y a une erreur de traduction?
May I speak, Mr. Mayor?
Oui, Monsieur Brault.
I think what Mrs. Jones is saying is that in the master plan, we're talking about different zone, different sector, the old village and everything. And now, in this consultation, I think we made up new zones. And then there are not in the initial master plan. So that mixes everything up. So we're making new zones that are not in the original master plan.
I'll have to look at the French version of that for the wording.
Madame Achachina will reply.
On n'a pas créé de nouvelles zones, donc je tiens quand même à le préciser. Tous les secteurs qui ont fait l'objet de consultations publiques figurent dans la carte des secteurs potentiels de densification du plan d'urbanisme durable. Le 11, le but de la soirée du 11, c'est vraiment de vous expliquer tout ça, montrer toutes les cartes qu'on a dans les projets de règlement qui vont être disponibles dans les 24-48 heures pour vous, afin que vous preniez connaissance et qu'on puisse vous les présenter amplement lors de cette soirée. Merci.
Do you want me to translate, Mrs. Jones?
No, because I kind of understood what you're saying, but it's still not answering the question. Because it's nothing to do with something on the sectors. It's the wording of what's here and how you're putting a new orientation in, and when it says for its requalification sectors, when it's referring to the master plan, and the master plan doesn't have it. So that's what the quandary was.
The master plan has the whole city in it. And basically what we're saying is that for certain areas in the city, we're going to requalify them. And you know which ones they are. They're the ones that we've been talking about.
But it's saying it's doing that to the master plan.
Okay.
It's not in the master plan as it stands right now. So this is something that's going to be added to it.
We're changing the master plan, yes.
That's right. Which leads me to my next question. On the agenda, there's several references to the zoning and the master plan changes, which we've discussed earlier, which I wrote this before I knew what you were going to say. Are we to assume that these changes on the agenda are the result of the BC2 recommendations for the changes to the 8 zones that were identified over the last year, which you've answered that? It's quite disconcerting that you're jumping into tabling and adopting these draft bylaws sight unseen by the very people that you serve. The master plan of Dorval is a highly comprehensive plan and has been received accolades from far and wide for its brilliance. It was formed and arrived at over many years by the whole of the population. The Sustainable Master Plan is the equivalent of Dorval's constitution. The elected officials may come and go, but the master plan is our cornerstone. The elected officials are custodians of that plan and that vision and should govern themselves to protect it now and for our future generations. When BC2 was tasked to identify densification areas, the 8 zones evolved and were presented to the population. There were no indications that they were going to take major changes to our master plan, and especially when it was not even discussed or put on the table. The 8 zones were discussed. Will the city make sure that the plan changes are to the best interest of the population and not just catering to the developers who must be waiting in the wings? Will the city also make sure there is complete coverage and notifications to all the population? Very unlike the last debacle at Christmas and the survey that half the population didn't get.
Okay, Mrs. Jones, we're all residents of Dorval, right? We chose to come here and spend our time here. When I bought a house here, I was looking in all kinds of places. It was my wife who said to me, this is where we're going to live, this is where we're going to bring up our kids. She convinced me. It's the best city on the West Island, in my opinion. I didn't come into politics to destroy something. I came here to make sure that the city is best prepared to what the future is going to bring us. And as I said in the beginning, what we're trying to do here is to take control of a situation where presently we have very little control. We have an urban plan. I know the master plan is very well recognized, but below that, there is very, very weak regulations, and we're struggling with this. And we need, it is essential that we wrestle that tiger and solve some of the problems that we are facing, because we do not have the tools to control the development that can come in the next 5, 10, and 20 years. If we want to have a city that's a livable city, that's a manageable city that we can walk from one end to another with the parks that we require and want, we have to put into place some regulations that will control what developers want. Doing nothing is not an option. It's not an option. The question is, what do you want the future to look like? And that's what we're going to explain to you on October 11th, based on the discussions that we had with 1,200 residents, which is an incredible number of people to participate. I'm very proud of the residents of Dorval for attending. And then there was the 250 who came to the consultations. I'm going to repeat. Doing nothing is not an option. What we need to do is to have a vision of what is the maximum that we're going to tolerate and accept, and enshrine that in our urban plan, so that in 5 years we don't have people who come to us and say, no, I want to build 20 stories, or I want to build 25 stories. That's being discussed in other West Island cities. So what we're going to present on the 11th is a global vision of what we want, and we're targeting the redevelopment sites and only the redevelopment sites. I'm very proud that we're some people will call us a bedroom community. That's what we are. That our single family homes is what makes this city great. We want to preserve this, but we know what the future brings, and we want to be able to control that development. And this is what this whole process has been about. So you know, I'm going to come back to the very beginning. Some people will like this. Most people will like it. Some will love it. Most people will like it. And some people will hate it. And that is the reality in life. I can put 100 people in a room and probably get 79 different opinions on the same question. That is the reality. So what we're doing here comes from 12 months of discussions, consultations with the public, reflections ourselves, and working with companies that provide us with the tools that we need. And I'm very proud of showing you what we're going to present. And I think if everyone just, you know, does a big woosa and wait till see the document tomorrow, I think you will be happy.
The master plan took 4 years in the making, and it's only halfway through. It was a 16-year plan. We're in year 8 right now. I think the error that started was you're supposed to have an adjustment every 2 years and a review. That was never done. That could have made corrections as you went along. So, but that's in the past. But the future is tenuous with the speed that you're pushing these through. I agree with the gentleman that was here before, that to have the adoption, to adopt straight away is a bit disconcerting.
We're not adopting anything today.
Well,
I
you're
know-
adopting the draft bylaw, correct?
We're adopting a draft bylaw.
Correct.
It simply says that, here's our vision, now we're going to present it to you, let's have some input, let's have some discussion. I said that the council is open and willing to discuss it, and if we need to make changes, we will make changes. But let's not go out tomorrow and say that we've adopted something and there's nothing.
No, I didn't say, I said
I didn't say you
you're adopting a
did.
draft bylaw.
I just don't want people to leave tonight's meeting with the understanding that everything is set in stone, because it's definitely not.
It certainly feels like that.
Rachel Cournoyer, 170 McNichol Crescent. I'm a specialist in communications, so I think some of my questions are going to address that. You're going to have a presentation up on your website within 2 days, I understand. What are you going to do to alert the population of Dorval that the information is there? Because people don't necessarily trot to the city to check its website every day. I do that several times a month, but I'm the exception, I think. So what are you going to do to let everybody know, hey, look at the website?
We're going to put it on our website. We're going to put it on social media. There's people that watch social media who don't watch the website. And we're going to send out an email with that information, and everyone who's registered will get that. That should cover a big chunk of the people.
How large is your email list?
Oh, I have no idea, Mrs. Cornway. Right, it's fairly big. I cannot answer that question.
Yeah, are you going to make flyers available at key points in the city?
We were discussing tonight that we may have some information at the community centers. We're a little hesitant about giving out information to people without a context to better understand it. So we will come back to that question, but I don't have an answer for you tonight.
Because the Publisac would be a good means of reaching Dorval residents.
It's great,
those that get the
but we all know
Publisac.
that there's no Publisac.
Pardon me?
But there's no Publisac.
Oh, I get one every week?
Okay, but a large part of the city does not.
Oh, okay. Okie doke, so it's social media, and because you really should go a little further than that, I think. And then on October the 11th, you're going to have the meeting. Is it going to be webcast?
It's going to be recorded for sure and available the next day. Will it be live? We're not sure yet.
Okay, because that would be really important, because if people go to the meeting and they have subsequent questions or want to discuss things within their neighborhoods, it would be it'd be really good that they have access to the broadcast to make sure that the information that you're giving out is accurate when it's diffused.
Yeah, we have no issues. It'll be recorded just like the consultations on green spaces and parks.
Okay, and it'll be available within 24 to 48 hours?
Same delay that it takes for us to get this recording online.
Okay, because that can take a week.
Does it take a week, Madame?
Usually it's 48 hours.
Okay. Okay, and then there's the right to petition for referendum. I want to ask because there has been a group that has been demonstrating on Garden Crescent for 2 months over the summer because they want to keep Garden Crescent the way it is. They call it the lungs of Dorval, and they're saying that if Dorval Avenue is going to really densify, it would be essential that there be a green park, a green space, a lung in that area. If they don't agree with your plans to build up 50% of it, will they have any recourse? Can they petition for a referendum?
Well, Mrs. Cornway, first let's
I'm
be
just
clear.
using that as a hypothetical case, you know?
Well, the property doesn't belong to the city, so it belongs to a private owner.
Yes?
Yeah, so, I mean, if the options are limited. We are going to put some, and we're going to discuss it on the 11th, we're going to put some mechanisms in place to protect up to 50% of the green space in that area. That's a pretty bold statement.
Can't the city expropriate the entire garden?
It's always a possibility.
Yeah.
I don't know, is there a question in that? It's a possibility.
Well, yeah, no, I mentioned it because you mentioned that it's private sector property, but I'm saying that's not necessarily an absolute because the city always has the option of expropriating property, paying fair market value.
The city has the option of expropriating, yes, the government has given the city powers. The question is, does the city want to do that? Is that the property that the city wants to purchase? Is there other properties that are more important to be purchased? I don't know. That's a council decision. It's not a discussion for tonight.
Yeah, well, it's seeing that you're talking about taking an existing green space and reducing it by 50%.
Mrs. Cornway, I answered the question. We could expropriate the property. That's a hypothetical. What we're going to present to you on the 11th, and again, this is not a debate, This is answering question
No, this is a
period.
question regarding
So
the
we're
right
gonna-
to petition for a referendum.
So we're going to present our vision of what came out of the consultation on the 11th, and then we'll be able to answer all your questions then.
Okay. I have another question with regards to the interview gave Albert Kramberger in the Gazette concerning the project, the Senior Citizen Project.
Correct.
Am I right in that you only have a $5 million shortfall to completely finance that project? That was what I believed from the interviews, but I want to ask you that. Is it really only $5 million shortfall?
The project, Mrs. Cornway, and I'm not going to speak too much in detail about it. I've already said what I said in the article. The project is moving along. We had an update from our partners at the l'Office d'Habitation de Montréal, which we were very glad to hear. And it's my understanding that there is 4 contracts that have gone out to tender in various fields in engineering, electrical, etc. So that demonstrates that we're moving forward. The other thing that we know is that we're going to probably have to decontaminate the property as part of that project. And I say it's not the city, that's part of the project being proposed by the City of Montreal. We're not at a point where we're offering anybody any money. The project is moving forward, it's just taking time, and we'll see where it rolls.
Okay, because I think that the announcement that the federal government gave the other day saying that there would be no more GST charged on rental properties was no doubt good news for this project. But my question is, if there's only a $5 million shortfall, why doesn't the city just pay it?
Well, why do I need to pay something now when I can wait 6 months and see if the government pay the whole thing?
Well, if you've got 92 seniors that are in need of affordable housing in Dorval, that could liberate a lot of homes.
Okay, it's not a debate, Mrs. Cournoyer. I've answered the question. The project is moving forward. It's taking the time that it's taking, and it's moving forward. And as I said in the article, we'll see where it goes. I'm not going to just give a check to the government right now. They're not asking me for a check. So when the day that comes and they ask me for a check, then we'll make a decision. But right now, the project is moving along, and we expect it to take up speed in the fall, late fall, and early winter.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. The reason I'm asking that question, Maire Doré, is you've indicated in the past that if the city had to invest, that it would be ready to do so. So that was just my question, to follow up on what you mentioned in the past.
I don't need
so
to
thank
offer
you.
a check first. I'll let them come to us and ask for money, then we'll discuss.
Last question. Hopefully it's going to be short.
You promise, Mr. Nalges?
Knowledge.
Knowledge.
NALECZ, 286 Mimosa. Just a couple of questions. Who's the people who designed or wrote the law are the people from BC2, right? They are the ones who were instrumental in crafting the wording, is that right?
Well, you know, we have professionals on the side of the city. You know, we didn't say, here, just write a document and send it to us, and then we're just going to bring it over there. We have our urban planning department that's working very closely with our consultants to make sure that what we want in there, in that plan, and what we're expecting is done to the satisfaction of our team here.
And if I understand it correctly, it's for the requalification of the sectors that are not part of the sustainable master plan, but these changes are only going to be for these sectors, or are there going to be other additions in these changes?
They'll all be explained on the 11th. You know, I think we created a lot of confusion when there's no confusion. What we're talking about is the sectors that were identified in our urban planning discussions, right? And those areas are going to be requalified. It's not a citywide change of our urban plan. It's a very small change of the urban plan, and it's only targeted for the areas that we discussed in that map during our consultations.
And so just to be clear, the section of the NADG project on the north side of Carson will not be touched in these changes?
Correct, because the zoning changes were made many years ago.
And they are right now 8 stories, is that correct?
North American?
No, for the side of the north side of Carson.
The north side of Carson? I'm not going to say yes or no for fear of not knowing the information. Madame Hachachina, no, we don't have the information in front of us. If you want to know the height requirements for a specific property, like North American, please send me an email and we'll get that back to you.
Well, to my understanding, North American Group is actually lobbying to gain height from 12 to 16 for that section.
Okay. Well, I think, you know, you bring up...
This is a very important point. I mean, they're playing, comme on dit en français, ils jouent deux côtés de la glace.
No. There's unfortunately, I talk to people all the time in the city, and I hear a lot of misinformation, false information, rumors, and every other kind of innuendo you can imagine, okay? It is 16, and it has always been 16. There was 14, 16, and 16, I believe it is. We can validate that. in that area, we're controlled, the height is controlled by NAV Canada in relationship to the airport. They dictate to us, they dictate to the city, due to the flight paths into the airport, how high that building can be. So it's as high as the crane was when it was there. So the height of the building that you see today is the highest they can build. They have the ability to build at that height up to 3 more towers. But this is speculation because we've only approved 2 projects.
You've approved 2 projects on the
2 buildings
south side.
on the parking lot of the theater.
Okay.
Okay? Which, by the way, I'm just saying it like this because I stir the pot too. There's no condos being built in Dorval. Everyone who says that there are condos is not true. Everything that's being built in Dorval is rental apartments.
Fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Is there any more questions? Madame la greffière, Monsieur Von Roerts, excuse pour un moment.
Just a quick question. It's probably a very sore topic, but why was the NADAC area never brought into discussion?
Because the zoning was approved many, many years ago.
For the north and the south, like for the shopping center and for the south part?
The heights are controlled. It's been rezoned many years ago. I think we all know, we remember that process.
And you just said that there's no condos being built. Are all the NADAC buildings going to be rentals?
For now.
But the one that's just been built
All of the projects
is
that
a rental, I
all of
understand.
the projects that have been approved in the city of Dorval, high-density projects, medium-density projects, no matter how you call them, are all rental properties. That means the one at the corner of Carson and Dorval Avenue, the one on the corner of Dawson and Dorval Avenue.
And all the others at NADAC?
Yes,
They're all rentals?
correct.
Okay.
All at different price points.
Sorry?
All at different price points. It'd be very interesting for people. All right, if there's no more questions, we're going to proceed to the agenda. If you just give me a moment, please. On va attendre, Monsieur Von Roerts.
Madame la greffière. Oui. Merci.
Est-ce qu'on est prêt? Aux membres du conseil, est-ce qu'on est prêt? Excellent. Point 2.1, approbation du procès-verbal de la séance tenue le 28 août. Est-ce qu'on a des questions additionnelles?
Non. S'il n'y a pas de questions, Monsieur le maire, je vais proposer l'adoption du procès-verbal tel qu'écrit pour la session du 28 août 2023.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. 3.1, règlement de délégation, dépôt de rapport de décision déléguée. Est-ce qu'on a d'autres questions pour M. Rouleau? Merci. 3.2, avis de motion et dépôt de projet de règlement RCM-91-1-2023.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to give a notice of motion and tabling of the draft bylaw RCM 91-1-2023, amending the interim control bylaw number RCM 91-2022 in order to reduce the territory of application of the bylaw to the new delimitation of the Special Planning Program SPP of the Michel Jasmin sector.
Est-ce qu'on a un second? Oh, excuse. Merci, M. Von Roerts. 3.3, adoption du projet de règlement RCM-91-1-2023.
Monsieur le maire, afin de procéder aux consultations, aux présentations comme discuté, je propose alors d'adopter le projet de règlement RCM 91-1-2023, modifiant le règlement de contrôle intérimaire RCM 91-2022 afin de réduire le territoire d'application du règlement aux nouvelles limites du plan particulier d'urbanisme PPU du secteur Michel Jasmin.
J'appuie.
Merci. Est-ce qu'on a ceux qui sont contre? Donc, c'est résolu. 3.4, avis de motion de dépôt de projet de règlement numéro RCM-60-PU.2-2023.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je donne avis de motion à l'effet de proposer à une séance ultérieure du conseil le règlement RCM 60-PU-2-2022 modifiant de nouveau le plan d'urbanisme 2015-2031, numéro RCM 60-PU-2015, aux fins d'intégrer un cadre d'aménagement pour le secteur de requalification, une délimitation du périmètre du plan particulier d'urbanisme PPU, Michel Jasmin et une carte des hauteurs.
Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un... Oh, j'ai besoin d'un appuyeur.
Pas pour l'avis de motion.
Merci. Quand je l'ai noté. 3.5, adoption de projet de règlement RCM-60-PU.2.2023.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'adopter le projet de règlement numéro RCM 60-PU-2-2023, modifiant de nouveau le plan d'urbanisme durable 2015-2031, numéro RCM 60-PU-2015, aux fins d'intégrer un cadre d'aménagement pour les secteurs de requalification, une délimitation du périmètre du plan d'urbanisme, du plan particulier d'urbanisme PPU, Michel Jasmin, et une carte des hauteurs.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, c'est résolu. 3.6, avis de motion de dépôt de projet de règlement de concordance RCM-60A-16-2023.
Monsieur le maire, je donne avis de motion à l'effet de proposer une séance ultérieure du Conseil le règlement de concordance RCM 60A-16-2023, modifiant à nouveau le règlement de zonage RCM-60A-2015, afin d'adopter certaines dispositions dans le règlement de zonage RCM 60A-2015 pour assurer la conformité au plan d'urbanisme durable 2015-2031, RCM 60 PU-2015 modifié, et dépose le dit projet de règlement.
Merci. 3.7.
Monsieur le maire, vous devriez demander est-ce que tout le monde est d'accord?
C'est juste un avis.
Ah, OK.
C'est un avis.
J'attends. D'accord.
3.7, adoption du projet de règlement de concordance RCM-0A-16-2023.
Mr. Mayor, I propose that we adopt the draft concordance bylaw RCM 60A 16-2023 to further amend zoning bylaw RCM 60A 2015 in order to ensure compliance of certain provisions of said bylaw with the modified Sustainable Master Plan 2015-2031, number RCM 60 PU 2015.
J'ai un appuyant.
I second that.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre?
Merci, je suis contre et j'aimerais clarifier ma position. I'm against it, and I'd like to clarify my position, please.
Allez-y, Monsieur Rowe.
Well, to all the citizens of Dorval, my role is not always easy because I realize sometimes I'm the watchdogs of what's happening here. So I have to be critical, and this is why I vote against that règlement. We at the council, we must provide a clear and useful information to all residents. The goal is to foster open and transparent communication. Was it the case? I have some concerns. Projet de concordance. Have you ever heard it during the consultation? No. I made a lot of, I studied a lot of other towns that did it, and they were upfront about it from the start. We did not. Along the way, then we found out it was a projet de concordance. So I'm very disappointed that the public consultation process changed along the way. From the outset, the credibility of these consultations was sometimes non-transparent. I asked the mayor and the director general at the beginning, for clarification to the urban planning department on why not all the big lands in Dorval were not included in this consultation. And at the city council caucus, had the clear answer that all the big lands would be included. Even the mayor said it openly at the meeting in March when we adopted it. And then I found out it was only certain addresses, specific addresses, that we were looking into it in that mandate. But I was too late. I voted under false information. Why we chose BC2 is because, according to the document, is because they were the only firm that could do the job in a fast pace to deliver it quickly. But we're almost a year later, and we're delayed. You know, the first phase, was diagnosis and orientation. Identify redevelopment potential properties and have all the documentation. I asked to have all the documentation. I never had the highest and best use properties, the redevelopment potential document. Okay, which means which property has the highest and best use value. I asked many times, never had that. Okay. The survey was widely criticized by the population. Okay. Some residents never had the chance to receive the survey. There was no way to verify if all the respondents were citizens of Dorval. The questions were direct questions, and answers were not open answers where citizens could express how they really feel about that consultation. The 3 public consultations were the same, and was also criticized because people couldn't express themselves and ask questions. We had to force, people had to force the presentators to answer some questions, and they were giving post-it when post-it were available to put on a poster. For me, when we are deciding on the future of Dorval, this is the most important time for Dorval for the next many years. And we cannot have a decision based on consultations that could have been way better. So we're so late because when we agreed to that contract, phase 3 was drafting an amendment, a regulatory drafting an amendment. So in autumn, for adoption of the draft in autumn 2022. So I don't understand how come we now have to hire Stantec to write the draft of the consultation when it was supposed to be, according to my mind, BC2. So Stantec has been hired along the way without going to tender because it was a DG that hired Stantec without the council approval. And then we hired resources from National 2 without council being involved. So for all those things, I'm not comfortable with the process. And now we're hiring Stantec, and on the contract it says we ask five large firms that were invited as part of the tender process. I asked who were those 5 firms, never had a reply. We have a great sustainable urban development plan, the master plan. We have a summary of the major project that should have been done since 2015. And one of those, the first one on top of this list is having a plan particulier d'urbanisme. You know, I have a hard time translating it, for 3 sectors: the Old Village, the Central Urban Area, which is the entrance of Dorval, and the Dorval Intermodal Hub, which is maybe the triangle. So we're doing the triangle, but how come we're not doing a PPU with all the shopping center, with all the big lands getting into Dorval? And a PPU is a set of rules that we define a little city within a city. And now we're dividing this, Dorval East, Montreal, Toronto, Dorval South. No, those are the sectors that were in the, like you said, Madame Jones, were in the urban plan. We don't follow our urban plan. Our urban plan sets out the planning agenda and the intervention program all the way to 2031. That's our Bible. That's what we should follow. And we should have reviewed it every 2 years, okay? And to make appropriate achievement on our vision for the future. Together, we should invest in following our master plan. Right now, we say, we're going to do bits by bits of the master plan. No, we have to look at as a whole. And that master plan was well done, and we never follow it. Now we're reinventing the wheel bits by bits. Maybe we're going to have good results, but I'm talking about the process. Okay, the process right now, I'm really confused about the concordance that is announced at the last minute. And then for citizens, it's a loss of their way of expressing themselves. And I'm not really sure about that. So for that reason, I'm against that. Maybe we're going to have a great project, but the process wasn't clear, and the process has to be clear for citizens to get involved. So we have a good link with our public. So right now, I'm not sure if the public trusts us to go forward. So I'm against that, this adoption.
Thank you, Mr. Bro, for that commentary. I'm a bit surprised at your comments tonight. To be frank, it's a process that we've been following for almost 11 months. You participated in all of the public consultations. You have been in many working sessions with this council. Since we've come back from the summer break, you participated in a very long meeting that we had with Monsieur Rouleau on June 14th. And there was hours. I can't even remember how many hours we spent that night, and you left very satisfied with the answers that you received. We also had a subsequent meeting on August 13th. Again, you left very satisfied. September 5th, we had a meeting with Monsieur Rouleau, and you seemed to say that you were understanding the process and very satisfied. You even discussed potential heights in some areas. And even tonight, we had almost an hour dedicated to your questions. So I'm sorry that you feel that way. I think, what we're saying here is that we're diminishing the results of the consultation that 1,200 residents participated in, which is an incredible number, based on what we were being told. And we're also negating the 250 people who came to the consultations and expressed their point of view. So thank you for your comments. We will proceed on to the next point.
I
Monsieur le
ask
maire, est-ce que je peux
to
avoir,
speak, please.
Moi aussi, j'aimerais avoir une seconde, s'il vous plaît.
Je ne sais pas si je peux avoir un point d'ordre. Est-ce que le directeur général peut intervenir comme ça tout le temps ou ce soir, c'est la soirée des élus?
Monsieur Beau, vous avez fait des allégations à mon égard concernant...
Je demande au président de l'Assemblée.
Oui, Monsieur Brault.
Et là, je demande un point d'ordre parce que depuis le début, il y a une table des élus. Vous êtes assis à la table des élus. J'ai jamais vu ça au Québec, là. Mais, vous allez me le demander, là, mais c'est parce que là, c'est pas vous qui êtes le président.
Monsieur
c'est des
Brault.
élus ici.
Monsieur Brault.
Donc, il y a une procédure. Là, j'ai la parole, là.
Non, Monsieur Brault.
Vous m'avez adressé des choses.
Monsieur Brault, s'il vous plaît.
Arrêtez de crier.
Non, je ne crie pas, Monsieur Brault.
Oui, vous avez crié.
Je vais
vous dire, là, vous avez crié trois reprises. J'ai même quitté la salle parce que c'était de l'intimidation. Vous frappez sur la table. Il y a des fois où c'est assez. Là. Je ne fais pas partie de votre équipe, mais j'ai le droit de parler.
Monsieur Brault.
Vous m'avez dit des choses. J'aimerais dire la vérité. Vous m'avez dit, je suis très satisfait.
Monsieur Brault, je vous demande de me laisser la parole. Je vous ai laissé la parole, 10 minutes de parole, de 15 minutes. Là, j'aimerais avoir la parole, s'il vous plaît.
Vous avez terminé votre point, puis c'est à mon tour.
Non, vous avez demandé pour un mot de parole.
Oui.
Oui, et Monsieur Rouleau a demandé pour un mot de parole.
Ah.
Et je n'ai pas répondu à vous ou à Monsieur Rouleau. Est-ce que je peux statuer là-dessus?
Allez statuer.
Monsieur Rouleau, vous avez un mot de parole, s'il vous plaît. Après ça va être suivi par M. Brault.
Juste très rapidement, M. Brault, vous avez parlé du mandat qu'on a octroyé à Stantec. Nous sommes allés en appel d'offres et les dépenses ont été présentées au conseil. Donc, quand vous mentionnez que ça n'a pas été fait, c'est faux. Je pourrais vous sortir les documents nécessaires pour vous démontrer cet élément-là.
M. Brault?
Je vais revoir le texte, M. Rouleau, hein, parce qu'en toute honnêteté, moi, j'ai demandé, il y avait dans le contrat, on a dit qu'on est allé par invitation auprès de 5 grandes firmes. Je vais demander à 2 reprises quels sont les noms des 5 grandes firmes. Vous m'êtes jamais revenu là-dessus. J'ai demandé d'avoir le rapport de highest high value des terrains et vous n'êtes jamais revenu là-dessus. Au départ, Monsieur le maire, j'ai demandé à vous rencontrer et l'ancien directeur général, j'ai passé par vous parce que j'avais des questions au service de l'urbanisme sur le contrat qu'on donnait à BC2 parce que vous m'avez assuré qu'on faisait une révision de tous les grands terrains. J'ai demandé même les terrains de Nadagne qui n'ont pas eu leur permis de construction, oui. Même la phase 3, 4, 5, oui. Vous l'avez même répété au conseil de ville devant tout le monde. Moi, j'ai voté là-dessus. Ça, ce sont des faits, là. J'ai voté là-dessus. Donc, j'ai voté sous de fausses impressions. Par la suite, j'ai même appris que BC2 était le lobbyiste de Nadagne, le promoteur des phases 3 et 4 et le propriétaire du centre d'achat. Et là, nous, on ne le savait pas. Bien, il y en a certains qui le savaient au conseil de ville. Il y en a d'autres qui ne le savaient pas. Fait que là, ça a commencé comme ça, la consultation. C'est pour ça que je dis que ça manque de transparence. Par la suite, quand vous dites, vous me mettez des mots dans la bouche. M. Brault était très, très satisfait. Et à chaque fois, le sondage, il y a des résidents qui n'avaient pas le sondage, qui n'ont pas pu répondre. On savait pas, il n'y avait pas de manière de savoir s'il y avait une authenticité des résidents, si c'était vraiment de Dorval. Le sondage était compliqué. Les gens, on n'avait pas de questions ouvertes. J'ai demandé d'avoir des questions ouvertes. Il n'y a pas eu de questions ouvertes. Les gens étaient dirigés vers des questions précises avec des réponses précises. Après ça, on a eu des questions. À la suite, on a eu des questions de la part du public. quand on a fait l'évaluation du rapport, on n'a jamais tenu compte des questions du public et des questions. Tout ce qu'on voulait savoir, c'était les hauteurs et les hauteurs. Par la suite, on a eu une deuxième rencontre où on nous a dit « Hey, là, Pascal, on ne parle pas de rien d'autre, on ne peut rien additionner sur qu'est-ce qu'on va dire sur le rapport. Tout ce qu'on parle, ce sont juste des questionnements sur si c'est correct ou pas. Vous êtes venu avec des demandes d'augmenter le nombre d'étages aux 200 Bouchard. Nous, on ne pouvait pas revenir avec aucune demande, mais vous deux, vous êtes revenus avec la demande d'augmenter de 8. On avait statué à 8 étages pour le 200 Bouchard, d'aller jusqu'à 10. Bien là, ça, on a eu de la pression.
Et le conseil a fait quoi, M. Brault? Qu'est-ce que... quand vous amenez ça comme ça, là?
Oui.
Mais qu'est-ce qu'on a statué, le conseil? Là?
Bien, on est allé contre votre pression d'augmenter notre décision qu'on avait prise, puis qu'on n'était pas supposé revenir dessus, de 8 jusqu'à 10.
Pas du tout, M.
Question,
Brault.
M.
Non, je n'ai pas fini, Chris.
Un moment, M. Brault.
Non, j'ai pas fini.
Non, moi, j'ai fini parce que moi,
j'ai
j'ai jamais forcé le conseil à accepter un numéro.
Non, vous n'avez pas forcé.
Non.
Vous avez poussé pour ça.
On a eu une discussion en présentiel sur le terrain.
On n'était pas supposé d'avoir ça. C'était supposé d'être
M. Brault, les faits sont les faits. On était ensemble sur le terrain.
Sur le terrain.
Et on a eu une discussion et le conseil a statué sur 8 comme un groupe. On était tous d'accord là-dessus.
Ben, je sais, on avait déjà statué. Vous avez essayé de remonter la hauteur des taux.
Pas du tout, monsieur.
Et on a dit non, on revient à ce qu'on avait déjà statué. On ne va pas défaire ce qu'on a statué parce que le promoteur va avoir des taux plus hauts.
Monsieur Brault, j'ai jamais donné un accord à 10 étapes. OK.
Moi,
Monsieur Von Roritz,
est-ce
vous
que,
avez
Monsieur
un
le
point?
directeur général, vous soufflez toujours les réponses au maire?
Est-ce que j'ai la parole ou non?
Oui,
non,
avez
c'est
la
à moi.
parole,
C'est à
Mais
moi
Monsieur
la
le
parole.
Président m'a dit
non,
que
point
je-
d'ordre. Ça marche pas, là. Si tu fais ça, là, tu vas aller en compte de tout. J'ai 15 minutes, j'ai droit à mon temps de parole. J'ai pas fini.
Vous avez bien dépassé 15 minutes sur ce
non.
point-là. Mais, oui.
Ben non.
Mais vous avez commencé à...
Vous avez dit que je suis
je vais dire
extrêmement
point d'ordre, alors.
Je vous ai dit que je suis extrêmement satisfait. J'ai envoyé un courriel, demande urgente de clarification, de preuves suite aux allégations du directeur général. Parce que j'ai envoyé un courriel au conseil de ville que j'étais déçu de la procédure. Puis il y avait 5 éléments. Le directeur général a mis des mots dans ma bouche, puis a fait des graves allégations que j'émettais des informations trompeuses. Alors là, moi, j'ai répliqué avec un tableau qui dit « OK, j'ai parlé de la qualité et de l'accessibilité de l'information. Monsieur Rouleau, j'ai exprimé de façon légitime ma déception concernant l'accessibilité à l'expertise en urbanisme lors de 2 réunions critiques où je n'ai pas eu accès à la directrice de l'urbanisme. Ce point est essentiel pour la prise de décision éclairée. Monsieur Rouleau, quelles sont les allégations ou informations que vous jugez trompeuses dans la déclaration de M. Brault? Vous n'avez jamais répondu à ça. Démarche de concordance. Moi, je vous dis, je n'ai jamais entendu parler de ça. Est-ce que ça, c'est une information trompeuse? Non. Hauteur des bâtiments pour le site de 200 Bouchard. On vous l'a dit, il a fallu revenir sur une deuxième fois sur le site de Bouchard parce qu'il y avait de la pression d'augmenter de 8 à 10 la hauteur. Puis là, je vous dis, il y a une pression d'augmenter la hauteur des édifices pour les exigences du TOD. Puis là, j'ai marqué, le TOD, c'est à 1 km, dans un rayon 1 km de la gare. Et le 200 Bouchard n'est pas dans le TOD. Je n'ai pas dit qu'il n'était pas dans le secteur de densification. Il n'est pas dans le TOD. La dernière chose, j'ai marqué, est-ce qu'on pourrait faire une visite du TOD démonstrateur de la CMM à Candiac? Le TOD Bois-Franc que notre firme nous a recommandé.
Monsieur Brault, on est à 20 minutes d'intervention de ta part. Et donc, je vous demande de finaliser vos commentaires
tout ce que vous avez fait,
dans 1 minute, s'il vous plaît.
Tout ce que vous avez dit, vous ne l'avez jamais étayé avec des faits. Moi, j'ai mis tous mes faits, des accusations envers moi, puis de l'intimidation de la part d'un DG pour dire il faut qu'on l'adopte, envers un élu. Oui, oui. Je l'ai là.
OK. Monsieur Brault,
C'est
là, on
assez.
s'en va dans un territoire très particulier.
Ben, c'est assez.
On va continuer.
Ça fait plusieurs reprises que je me fais
Monsieur
intimider
Brault,
en conseil.
Monsieur Brault, là,
Taper
vous
sur
êtes
la
en train
table,
d'intimider
crier.
le reste du conseil. S'il vous plaît, vous avez eu 20 minutes d'intervention sur ce point. On va procéder au prochain point. Ça, c'est un point d'ordre.
Quand un conseiller s'exprime puis il dit qu'il est en désaccord, vous n'avez
Monsieur Brault,
pas besoin de revenir
Monsieur Brault,
d'essayer de
Monsieur
dénigrer.
Brault, vous avez eu 20 minutes d'interrogation sur ce point-là.
Je vous souhaite une
OK,
belle soirée.
Monsieur Von Roertz.
C'était un point d'ordre, on l'a dépassé quand même. Je crois qu'on a eu des discussions qui viennent d'être partagées, qui étaient quand même confidentielles en caucus. Et je ne suis pas à l'aise avec cela. Partager des courriels, je pense que c'est à chacun sa responsabilité, mais des discussions que nous avons eues, qui était pour, qui était contre, sachant qu'en bout de ligne, c'est au conseil qu'on prenne des décisions. Je ne suis pas à l'aise qu'on partage ce genre d'informations et je demanderai qu'on vérifie pour la future si c'est acceptable qu'on...
Le directeur général a fait
Merci,
à peu près
Monsieur Brault.
5 fois,
Monsieur
il dit
Brault, vous avez- Monsieur Brault.
en confidentialité des choses.
J'ai actuellement 15 minutes, je
qui
crois,
m'avez
mais,
dit ça. C'est vous-même qui m'avez dit ça.
Monsieur Brault.
Ça, c'est le directeur
Monsieur
général
Brault.
qui se permet de dire
Monsieur
ça à
Brault.
des élus.
Vous avez eu votre 20 minutes. Au point de M. Von Roertz, il a le droit à 15 minutes d'intervention. Il a le droit de parler. Moi, j'aimerais procéder au prochain point parce que cette discussion va nous part vite. M. Von Roertz? Merci. On procède au 3.8.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, de donner avis de motion à l'effet de proposer à une séance ultérieure du Conseil le règlement SCM 60A-17-23 modifiant le nouveau règlement de zonage SCM 60A-2015 aux fins de modifier les limites de la zone P01-44, s'agrandissant à même la zone P01-45, de supprimer la zone P01-45 et de modifier les limites de la zone C02-30 de façon à créer deux zones distinctes et dépose le dit projet de règlement. Pour information, on parle ici du terrain des travaux publics au parc Ballantyne et du petit centre d'achat sur Dumont.
Merci. On va aller au point 3.9. Adoption d'un premier projet de règlement RCM-60A-17-2023.
Je propose d'adopter le premier projet de règlement RCM-60A-17-2023 modifiant de nouveau le règlement de zonage RCM-60A-2015 aux fins de modifier les limites de la zone P01-44, s'agrandissant à même la zone P01-45, de supprimer la zone P01-45 et de modifier les limites de la zone C02-30 de façon à créer deux zones distinctes.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? C'est résolu. « 4.1 Autorisation d'une signature d'une entente pour la concession alimentaire de l'Aréna Edgar-Rouleau.
Je propose d'autoriser le maire et la greffière à signer pour et au nom de la Cité de Dorval une entente tripartie entre la Cité de Dorval, l'Association athlétique de Dorval, AAD, et 94-18-1278 Québec Inc. relativement à l'exploitation d'un service de cantine à l'Aréna Edgar-Rouleau, le tout selon les termes et conditions apparaissant à l'entente jointe au dossier décisionnel 2023-008-01-5306 et tout autre terme ou condition qui sera jugé dans l'intérêt de la Cité, ainsi que d'autoriser le maire et la greffière à signer pour et au nom de la Cité de Dorval tout autre document requis pour donner les effets à cette présente résolution.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un contre? C'est résolu. 4.2, autorisation d'une signature d'entente pour le magasin d'équipements sportifs et aiguisage de patins ou le Pro Shop de l'Aréna Edgar-Rouleau.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it would be to authorize the mayor and the city clerk to sign for the behalf of the city of Dorval a tri-party agreement between the city of Dorval, Dorval Athletic Association, and Chris Emsworth, doing business under the name Stinger Sports, Inc., regarding the rental of premises of storage space for the operation of sales and sports equipment and the sharpening skates at the Edgar Rouleau Arena, all under the terms and condition appearing on the agreement attached to decision-making file 2023-8-015287, or any other terms and condition which will be judged in the interest of the city, to authorize the mayor and the city clerk to sign for and on behalf of the city of Dorval any other documents requiring to be given effect to this resolution.
I second the motion.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? C'est résolu. 4.3, service de location et installation d'un plafond lumineux et de décoration pour le marché de Noël 2023.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser l'émission d'un bon de commande à l'entreprise A Impact Production Inc. pour des services de location, d'installation et de démantèlement d'un plafond lumineux pour le marché de Noël 2023 au montant global de 20 005,65 $, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à sa soumission du 15 août 2023.
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? C'est résolu. Service expert, 4.4, service expert en mécanique de bâtiments, instrumentation et contrôle et audit sur les systèmes de production d'eau de baignade.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'approuver un mandat d'accompagnement de l'entreprise 9447-2479 Québec Inc. pour la durée de la fin du contrat de la firme OP6 et le transfert des activités vers un nouvel opérateur en janvier 2024 pour un montant ne dépensant pas 70 999,91 sous pour la période de septembre à décembre 2023 afin d'assurer la continuité des services d'experts en mécanique du bâtiment, instrumentation et contrôle et audit sur les systèmes dont ceux de production d'eau de baignade, le tout conformément à son offre de service du 25 août 2023.
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? C'est résolu. 4.5, étude de faisabilité pour la mise aux normes de salles électriques et installation d'une génératrice à l'hôtel de ville.
Mr. Mayor, I propose that we retain the services of the firm MLC Associated Inc., the lowest conformed bidder, to perform a feasibility study for upgrading the electrical room and installing a generator at City Hall for a total amount of $25,064.55, all taxes included, consistent with their bid.
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, c'est résolu. 4.6, service professionnel, contrôle de la qualité des matériaux, mise aux normes du centre aquatique Ballantine.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, de retenir les services de l'entreprise Laboratoire GS Inc., plus bas soumissionnaire conforme pour des services de contrôle de la qualité des matériaux et de leur mise en place pour le projet de mise aux normes du centre aquatique Ballantine, pour un montant total de 49 950,89 sous, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à la soumission.
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, c'est résolu. 4.7, service d'entretien de système de vidéosurveillance.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, ça serait pour émettre une commande d'achat à l'entreprise Securita Technology Canada Corporation pour la fourniture de services d'entretien de systèmes de vidéosurveillance pour la période du 15 septembre 2023 au 14 septembre 2024 au montant global de 20 217,43 $, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à son offre du 24 août 2023.
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? C'est résolu. 5.1, dépôt de liste de dépenses autorisées. Est-ce qu'on a des questions pour Monsieur le directeur général? 5.2, approbation de virements budgétaires.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser les virements au poste budgétaire tels que décrits au dossier décisionnel 2023-09-012584, qui représente à peu près une trentaine de transactions
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? C'est résolu. 5.3, dons et subscriptions.
Je propose d'autoriser une assistance financière à l'organisme suivant, le Royal Canadian Legion, au montant de 500 excusez.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre?
Je suis pour, mais j'aimerais m'exprimer là-dessus.
Allez-y.
Je suis pour. Ouais. Donc, je suis pour donner à tous les organismes de Dorval et on avance dans la structuration du processus. On va bientôt avoir un formulaire officiel lorsqu'il y a une demande. Comme ça, on va savoir où va l'argent. Est-ce que le 500 $ présentement, celui-là va au souper de steak pour la Légion? Mais quand on fait un don au tournoi de golf d'un club d'hommes de la Chine uniquement pour savoir qui va aller golfer avec eux autres, ben là, ça prend un petit formulaire pour avoir des précisions là-dessus, parce que l'argent, ben, ça devrait aller à nos organismes de notre communauté.
Merci. 5.4, autorisation de dépenses de réclamation.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser le paiement des réclamations décrites au rapport de la greffière adjointe pour la période s'échelonnant du 15 août au 15 septembre 2023 et totalisant un total de 192,48 $ non taxables.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? C'est résolu. 5.5, vente immeuble pour non-paiement de taxes pour l'année 2021. Ordonnance.
Je propose que le conseil ordonne à la greffière, conformément à l'article 512 de la loi sur les cités et les villes, de procéder le 1er décembre 2023 à la chapelle de la résidence 80, située au 12 avenue d'Alia, Dorval, Québec, à la vente à l'enchère publique des immeubles pour défaut de paiement de taxes municipales apparaissant à la liste jointe produite par le trésorier. Que la greffière soit autorisée à entreprendre les procédures requises pour donner effet à la présente résolution et que le directeur général ou, en son absence, le trésorier ou l'assistant trésorier soit autorisé à enchérir pour et au nom de la cité pour un montant correspondant aux arriérages de taxes plus les intérêts et frais encourus.
J'approuve, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? C'est résolu. 5.6, programme de subvention pour les maisons lézardées.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, c'est pour autoriser l'émission d'un paiement de 12 500 $ au propriétaire du 14 Place des Carrés pour les travaux effectués dans le cadre du programme de maisons lézardées, dont 6 250 $ est le montant financé par la cité de Dorval.
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Merci. Madame la greffière, ce programme-là, c'est avec le gouvernement provincial. Hein?
Oui.
C'est eux autres qui payent la subvention?
Oui.
Merci. 5.7, disposition de biens meubles, divers équipements.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser la disposition des biens meubles énumérés dans le présent dossier décisionnel 2023-09-01-5341 par le biais d'un service d'appel d'offres du Centre d'acquisition gouvernementale, le CAG, le tout conformément à la politique de disposition des biens de la cité. D'autoriser la disposition ultime, les rebuts des articles qui ne répondent plus aux besoins du service informatique TI, qui sont obsolètes ou brisés, de façon éco-responsable et conformément à l'énoncé de la politique de disposition des biens de la cité de Dorval. D'autoriser la chef de section ressources matérielles à prendre les mesures requises auprès du Centre d'acquisition gouvernementale, le CAG, et à signer tout document requis pour donner effet à la présente résolution.
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, c'est résolu. 5.8, mise à jour de l'inventaire de panneaux de signalisation et de marquage sur le territoire de la cité d'Orval. Monsieur Trudeau.
Excusez.
Ouais.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'approuver, tel que soumis, les plans datés du 6 septembre 2023 illustrant la signalisation et le marquage du territoire de la cité de Dorval. Cet inventaire de signalisation et de marquage est l'inventaire 2022 qui a été mis à jour à la fin de l'année dernière et le tout pourrait être conforme selon les normes du MTQ.
J'appuie, M. le maire, et je dois remercier M. Trudeau pour l'ouvrage que tu as fait là-dedans. Tu as travaillé des heures, merci.
C'est sûr. Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, c'est résolu. 6.1, dépôt du procès-verbal du comité consultatif d'urbanisme du 12 septembre. Est-ce qu'on a des questions additionnelles? 6.2, dépôt de rapport comparatif des listes de permis pour août 2023. Est-ce qu'on a des questions? Commentaires? Non? Merci, M. Von Royce. Non? 6.3, demande de modification de schéma d'aménagement et de développement de l'agglomération de Montréal.
Monsieur le maire, je propose que le conseil demande à l'agglomération de Montréal de modifier son schéma d'aménagement et de développement de manière à désigner les abords de la station des Sources comme un quartier Todd et effectuer celui-ci de manière à y rendre l'usage résidentiel compatible, et changer l'affectation industrielle du triangle formé par le boulevard Bouchard et l'autoroute du Souvenir, autoroute 20, pour une affectation à dominante résidentielle en continuité avec le quartier environnant. Mais juste pour expliquer aux gens, c'est lié quand même avec tout ce qui a été proposé et adapté dans le 3 et fera partie aussi des présentations qui aura lieu le 11 octobre.
Est-ce que je peux avoir la parole?
Allez-y, M. Beau. Demande de modification, oui. On a un secondaire. Secondaire? Oui, on a besoin d'un secondaire.
Après.
Okay, je vais appuyer.
Merci. M. Beau, vous avez la parole.
Je trouve ça excellent qu'on implémente le principe de TOD sur des sources. On a un TOD aussi à la gare d'Orval. Et je rappelle une chose, qu'un principe TOD impose une densité, mais n'impose pas une hauteur des buildings pour les lots. Donc, ça, c'est une nuance. Et j'ai demandé d'avoir une carte de densité pour la ville de Dorval au complet. Comme ça, les gens, ils vont être au courant des critères du PMAD, qu'est-ce qu'il faut densifier, puis quelle zone à Dorval a besoin d'être densifiée. Mais un PMAD, à moins que je me trompe, je ne suis pas un urbaniste, n'oblige pas une hauteur des buildings, mais une densité, c'est un nombre de logements par hectare.
Bon, est-ce que quelqu'un est contre cette motion? Donc, c'est résolu. 7.1, proclamation de semaine de la sécurité ferroviaire 2023.
Je vais proposer, M. le maire, que le conseil municipal de la cité de Dorval appuie la Semaine nationale de la sécurité ferroviaire qui se déroulera du 18 au 24 septembre 2023.
J'appuie.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, c'est résolu. Merci. 7.2, 29e marche annuelle contre la faim. Jean Clément.
Monsieur le maire, encore cette année, pour le 29e année, les scouts de Dorval, avec d'autres partenaires, aimeront tenir le marche contre la faim, Jean Clément, de quel tous les denrées non périssables sont données à l'assistance communautaire qui les redistribue dans notre communauté. Donc, j'aimerais proposer la tenue de la marche contre la faim organisée par les Scouts de Dorval pour le 21 octobre 2023. Et pour tous ceux qui ne sont pas dans le secteur ciblé, parce que la porte-à-porte, ce n'est pas à travers toute le Dorval, ils peuvent toujours soit amener leurs denrées à un centre de collecte qui va être publicisé, je ne l'ai pas avec moi, ou simplement les amener à l'assistance communautaire qui a toujours besoin.
J'appuie, M. le maire.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, c'est résolu. 7.3, mise en œuvre et publication du guide de mini-guide pour des activités éco-responsables. Monsieur Von Royce ou Madame Duchesne?
Je vais le faire. Je propose, M. le maire, que le conseil municipal de la cité de Dorval autorise la mise en œuvre et la publication et la diffusion du guide pour des événements éco-responsables, ainsi que le mini-guide joint au dossier décisionnel 2023-09-01-5392.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre?
J'aimerais juste féliciter le comité de l'environnement, tout leur travail. C'est un très beau produit qu'on va mettre en œuvre. Bravo.
Si je peux ajouter à cela, en particulier, c'est des bénévoles du comité sur l'environnement qui l'ont développé. Donc, merci pour le remerciement pour tout le comité, Madame Duchâtel. Mais je pousserai encore pour remercier les bénévoles en particulier qui étaient impliqués dans le développement de ce projet. On est chanceux d'avoir de citoyennes vraiment impliquées sur le comité. Et on est chanceux d'avoir ceci comme un exemple des projets qu'elle nous aide à développer.
Donc, c'est résolu. J'imagine personne n'est contre. Merci, c'est résolu. 7.4, résolution d'appui de la 15e édition du défi sans auto solo. Monsieur Brault?
Oui. Je vais juste lire comment s'inscrire. Alors, c'est la semaine du défi auto solo. Alors, moi, j'encourage tout le monde à essayer. Vous n'êtes pas obligé de ne pas utiliser votre auto. J'ai moi-même une auto. Je suis un automobiliste aussi. Mais de faire un petit effort et pour la planète et d'essayer de faire 10 déplacements dans la semaine. C'est la semaine. Vous pouvez vous inscrire avec l'application Auto Solo et vous pouvez vous inscrire sous une organisation, mais je pense que c'est assez récent, donc vous pouvez vous inscrire de façon individuelle et c'est un défi qu'on lance à la communauté pour essayer de sauver la planète et pour avoir une belle mobilité active. Alors, on a une belle ville à Dorval, c'est assez compact. Et je crois que d'encourager l'auto solo, ben, ça va nous faire du bien à tous et à toutes. Merci.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, c'est...
Oui, est-ce que vous... J'appuie, mais voulez-vous, M. Brault, juste lire le parti qu'on vote? Que le conseil.
Alors, Monsieur le maire, je recommande que le conseil de Dorval affirme son appui à la mobilité durable et invite ses employés, les citoyens et tous les gens qui gravitent autour de Dorval à participer au défi sans auto solo à titre individuel ou par affiliation à une organisation en suivant les indications qui apparaissent au www.défisansauto.com.
Et je l'appuie.
Merci. On est tous d'accord? Oui. C'est résolu. 8.1, nomination d'un employé col bleu au poste permanent de journalier avec permis.
Monsieur le maire, je propose qu'on autorise la nomination permanente de M. Gabriel Garand au poste de journalier avec permis au service des travaux publics, et ce, à compter du 19 septembre 2023, c'est-à-dire demain.
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? C'est résolu. 8.2, confirmation de présence d'un chef de section ressources matérielles au service administratif.
Monsieur le maire, je propose de confirmer à partir du 21 septembre 2023 la nomination permanente de Mme Olga Tabernero au poste de chef de section ressources matérielles au service administratif.
J'appuie.
Merci. On est tous d'accord? C'est résolu. Et le 8.3 a été retiré. J'imagine à ce point-ci, on n'a pas d'autres points à ajouter à cette session. Donc, j'ai besoin d'un proposeur pour lever la séance.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, la levée de la séance d'aujourd'hui, du 18 septembre 2023.
Et je l'appuie.
Personne n'est contre? C'est résolu. Bonne soirée tout le monde à la maison. Good night everyone here. Have a great week.